Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all fandoms, welcome to the Ferret and Raccoon podcast, episode 105, the best and worst of 2018. I'm the Angry Raccoon.
I'm the Indigenous Owl.
I'm Ace.
And we are here for the last podcast of the year. I know this is coming out after Christmas, but we got to talk about the best and the worst of 2018 in every single aspect, roughly, for the most part, give or take, technicalities, all that kind of jazz. Obviously, I've got Owl and I've got Ace with me, and we're basically, there's no stories. You had that on episode 154. Not 54.
104.
Obviously, already in the future already. Already in the future already.
Skip into 2020.
Yeah, pretty much. That would be. We would, depending on how things go, we would be doing 154 in 2020. Yeah. But yeah, we're not going to be doing any new stories or any stuff. We're basically just going to be doing lists and talking about some of the stuff we loved and enjoyed and hated this year. So for anyone who hasn't listened to any of our special-isk end of the year podcast, we basically have general rules that we kind of follow, in that we're kind of talking about every category. We're going to go in alphabetical order, although my stupid self, for whatever reason, decided to put music before books because I know the alphabet.
It's the new alphabet.
I guess you could say that. And in terms of how we're going to talk about things, we're going to go in alphabetical order. So it's going to be Ace, Owl, then me, and then we're going to keep going in that circle during every section. Regarding a lot of the things we've put on the list, there will be technicalities and situations where you might see something that came out in 2017, but we have, situations counted. So for example, with films, if a film came out in 2017, but we didn't, as in England or us, didn't get it in the cinemas or on DVD until 2018, we are counting as a 2018 product. That goes across the board in certain other mediums and such like that. We're mainly sticking to about 10 for most of the categories, but obviously people have less than that in some cases. Honorable mentions is kind of a free-for-all for the most part, but there's those mentions, and I don't think there's anything else we need to mention for the most part. I think everything else will kind of make sense as we go along. So let's get to the main event straight away, and that is the best and the worst of 2018, and we're going to start with music. Yes. And we're going to start with albums, and we're going to start with Ace. So let's hear the rundown.
I actually lost my list this morning of all of my stuff, so I had to recreate it as best as possible.
So professional.
I know. It was a great day for me. But because of that, I've only got one album I can name. I've got two singles and stuff like otherwise, but this is the 9 Inch Nails' new album, and I believe it's called Bad Witch.
Okay. Being
a mixture of their classic industrial metal and some jazz and a bit of techno at points. It was actually really good. I was surprised. It's also the shortest album, only half an hour.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't really care for 9 Inch Nails, but I did hear some very positive things about this album. So that's cool to hear. Is that it for music for you?
That's for the album. I can go on to the two songs, which also their music videos, being Childish Gambino's This Is America, which was fantastic, not only from the music standpoint, but the music video was excellent. And obviously it got hyped up as much as possible, and as it started dying down, there was more people criticizing. It's like, those people are wrong. They don't know what they're talking about.
Even other countries are doing it.
Exactly.
Which I think is that was somewhat the intention of it, to address these kind of cultural issues.
Exactly,
And I think that's why the video is as it is, which I'm pretty happy about.
And the other one being, which, whilst I was writing this down, I almost wrote Denzel Washington, but it's Denzel Curry's Clout Cobain.
Oh, yeah.
Which, fantastic song, which goes into a lot of dark stuff, almost tonally similar to Ain't It Funny How It Happened by Danny Brown.
Danny Brown, yeah.
And the music video is perfectly horrific in its carnival-esque way.
Yes.
So that's really what I can say, because I lost the rest of it.
That's for music, yeah? So it's on to you, Al.
I haven't got any albums, but songs. I've got one. By the artist Juice WRLD, Lucid Dreams.
Juice WRLD, although he misspelt juice.
Yeah.
He misspelt world. He misspelt world.
Yeah, world. Basically, I think I would say probably the genre is probably trap, I would say, for it.
Yes.
And I actually really like the song, even though it was sampled off the original song. I forgot the actual name of the song, but the artist is Sting.
Oh,
Sting.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, but I forgot the actual name of the song.
Right. I'm trying to think now.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because I haven't
when
heard
he
that
was
song.
like solo or when he was with the police?
No, solo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I
yeah,
mainly
I've got
listen to
less
I
songs.
actually forgot. the name of the song. I should have taken note
No,
of
that's
that.
fine. If you've got the name of it, that's fine.
But basically, it's about him writing about his him breaking up, like had a bad breakup with his ex-girlfriend, and he's just talking about that in the song, and it's really powerful. You can actually, it just gives you the feels. Like you actually feel sorry for him.
He's choking up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. And there was actually these couple of lyrics that actually I wanted to mention, which actually really
Go ahead, we got time.
it was you were made out of plastic, fake. I was tangled up in your drastic ways. Who knew evil girls had the prettiest face? And I just thought that was really powerful.
That's pretty nice.
And that's a true saying as well. Usually people with pretty faces are usually quite evil.
Yeah.
So I think I really like the fact they used that in there. But yeah, other than that, that's it for me.
Music as a whole?
Music as a whole, yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
It. It's literally one song.
Fair enough. I'm going to start with albums. And I had quite a few albums. I didn't listen to as many as I wanted to, unfortunately. So... I want to do my honorable mentions first. These are a couple albums which I really did enjoy. Didn't quite make my cut for the most part, but albums I would highly recommend. And most of these you can kind of listen to on YouTube to some extent. So the first I want to talk about is Sophie with Oils of Every Pearl's Under Insides. This is Sophie's debut album. You can listen to the whole album on YouTube.
Yeah.
Sophie had a pretty good year this year. She came out as being transgendered, made the transition to being a female, which is great. So she's one of the more forefront transgendered character people out there within the music industry, as well as being a very unique and creative electronic producer. And this album is very strange. I mean, it has a very strange name. You see Sophie, she's in this like weird outfit under this water. It's like a fantastic album, and it's got some very interesting songs that definitely really kind of push boundaries, like was it Shop Face, which is another very interesting song where it kind of repeats the same words, where she says, my face is the front of shop, my shop is the real shop front. And it kind of plays around with the whole idea of like visual identity and that kind of stuff. And there's even the very sexually explicit Pony Boy, that's a very sexual song. And
I'm not surprised considering the name.
Yeah.
And there are a few other like very interesting like sounds where I can't even figure out how they even were made. But then again, Sophie's kind of this new wave of electronic stuff. And she's definitely someone to really look forward to. And I'm actually really happy that I believe this album got a Grammy nomination somewhere, which is
that's good.
Amazing that she's come out of nowhere and done this. Next I want to talk about is Beach House with the album 7. Why is it called 7? Because it's their 7th album.
I love the creativity.
And this is kind of a return to form for Beach House to some extent. Last 2 albums haven't been very great, but if you like a lot of dream poppy, like kind of, it's hard to explain, but this is a very peaceful, very relaxing album. That's how I found it. Very tranquil. I really love the vibe of this album, and like I said, a really strong return to form, because I believe they got another producer to come in and kind of, I guess, help them out of their creative rut to some extent. Next one I want to talk about is George Clayton with Slide. This guy came out of nowhere and is coming out with this very 90s, visually vaporwave, electronic, almost like... It's basically soaked in aesthetic, this album. It sounds like some kind of vapor mainstream stuff, and it's got very weird sounds, and the guy has a very interesting voice. He's definitely one to watch. The album cover itself is just him going down a slide.
Yeah.
And yeah, I absolutely love this, and I haven't listened to it enough, so I can't talk about it as much, but yes, it's very aesthetic. Even the fact that Slide is written in very typical street art you would see like somewhere plastered around London, which is great. Another mention I want to do is Abstract Orchestra with Mad Villain Volume 1. Ooh. This is basically a orchestra version of a lot of songs from the Mad Villain album, which was the collaboration between Madlib and MF Doom. Basically, all I can say is if you love that album, give this a listen, because it's basically them doing some really interesting takes on those songs. Next one I'll talk about is Dabbery with 3-3 or 3/3 or 3 of 3. I'm not sure how you say it. A couple of very interesting beats. A few rappers feature on this, which I liked. MF Doom, John Wayne. It's basically just some very interesting beats if you want to hear that, and I really like some of those tracks. Too Mellow with Memories from Tokyo To, a ode to Jet Set Radio. Coming from Too Mellow, he's basically done a weird spiritual successor sequel inspiration album to the Dreamcast game Jet Set Radio. I think he might have even got the original announcer guy to do some voice recording for it. So cool. You definitely have him go, this one, there's one line where he goes, this one's been in the vault for years. This is a Jet Set classic. And it kind of plays this almost like electronic Latin like style version. It got some nice rapping on it. It very much feels very in tune with the styles and the stuff that was on the original soundtracks, and especially the final or second to last song, which is called Big Beast.
Ooh.
And that song lives up to the name Big Beast because next song I want to talk about is Czarface and MF Doom. Czarface meets Metalface, which is a collaboration with Czarface, who is Inspect the Deck and someone else of Wu-Tang Clan fame, as well as MF Doom, who I've already mentioned about 18 times already.
I actually didn't know this happened.
Yeah, they did a collaboration album, especially given that Czarface basically ripped off MF Doom to some extent.
I need to check this out.
Really interesting album, really great stuff. There are some very comedic stuff. It definitely plays up the whole villain superhero like vibe. There's a great like skit on this album as well, which I always keep coming back to, where this guy's kind of going, man, if you're going to be a villain, you need a mask. I got this one mask, but you know what? You can have two masks. And it's got like this very kind of classic like 80s and 90s kind of instrumental in the background, and it's very like, you know, Czarface, you know, very superhero-esque. So good stuff. Next one, Gorillaz, The Now Now. I liked a lot of tracks on this. Not the strongest Gorillaz album. Lake Zurich and other songs, which I'm going to talk about as well, really were nice. It's a very, I think it was Anthony Fantano of the Needle Drop who kind of summed this album up the best, where he basically said, it's like a day at the beach, but you're too sad to have fun.
That's pretty good.
Which I think is a great one. And the last one I want to talk about is Janelle Monáe with Dirty Computer. Haven't listened to this album enough, and I like a lot of the ideas and love the singing, and I love a lot of the features on here, but I didn't listen to it enough, so I can't put it anywhere in my top 10.
I believe that was actually on my list that I couldn't remember.
Okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
I want to do my best favourites. Now, this is the top 10 I have. I had 10 exactly. Number 10, I'm going with Rich Brian with Amen. Mm-hmm. This is Rich Brian's first rap album, debut album. He was like, I think he's quoted as the first Asian rapper to get number one in the charts.
Oh, wow, that's good.
With the album, so already killing it already. This is a really interesting and fun album that has some great songs on it, which I kind of talked about this on the podcast previously, but it's a really fun song. Brian has a very kind of like almost comedic like flow, the way he kind of talks about things, and the a lot of the variations and some of the features are quite nice, like having Joji on there as well, and 09 August or 07 August, which I think is a terrible name, but
it's not that memorable.
No, it's not, and I kind of wish the guy would change his name. It's not great, but a really, really strong album for the most part. Number 9, I'm giving to JPEG Mafia with Veteran. This is probably the weirdest and most experimental rap album you'll hear all year. JPEG Mafia does not give a damn on this album. He is insulting everyone, and he is taking everyone up to question on this album. There are some great quotes where he's basically shouting like, you know, where he's basically saying like, you know, alt-right, you've never been a threat, you know, and he's basically saying like, I'll make, you know, I want to make this guy cry, I want to make his girlfriend cry, I want to make his dad cry, I want him to cry for himself, you know. He's viciously just taking down everyone for the most part, and there's even a great line where he says, you know, I'm gonna whip your ass like Bruce Wayne with the cape, nigga. Which is great.
That's strong.
The production is weird, where you even have like a weird song where it sounds like he's getting angry that the loop he's made is glitching out, but then he kind of just basically goes fuck it and just raps over it anyway. And
that's pretty cool.
And a very interesting sample where he samples Old Dirty Bastard of Wu-Tang Clan fan and basically uses his throat singing as an instrumental, which is amazing. But even if you're not a fan of rap, I would honestly recommend listening to this album. And I mean, the constant use of "You Think You Know Me" and "Damn Peggy" thrown all over those are like his two samples. Almost every song you just hear "Damn Peggy." It is quite a comedic album. And my number 8 is also another very comedic album with Jean Grey and Quelle Chris with "Everything's Fine." This kind of borderlines on a comedy album, because the whole idea is basically that everything's fine in the world, and it kind of does make fun of a lot of that stuff. Even the intro takes place in a weird like fictional TV series where they're describing this like one woman who's like has a bachelor's degree in art but she can't get anywhere in life, and you know the whole idea of the game show is the only way to win is to say that everything's fine. So everyone just says, you know, everything's fine. They're like, great, you keep winning, you know, and that kind of stuff. And there's other skits on there where people are going, everything's fine, don't worry about other people's issues. I mean, if things are happening to people, don't worry about it, nothing bad will happen to you. But it has some great songs on here, like some interesting stuff where they I forget what this one song, it's I think it's called like Blue, Purple, Green or stuff like that, which has this very weird jazz instrumental sample which sounds so distorted. And the reason I'm not kind of going more into like song names is because my internet is currently down and I don't have them. So I'm just basically going by mention. Number 7, I'm going to No Name with Room 25. This is like by far the most tragic and sweetest album on my list to some extent, because she's just pouring her heart and soul into this album and bringing up like death and love in so many different ways, and kind of, you know, mentioning so many like deeper ideas and such tragic ideas in this album, which is really great. Very underrated album. Next, I want to go with number 6, Terror Whack World. Now, this album is 15 minutes long and it has 15 tracks on it.
Wow.
Okay.
Every song is roughly about a minute long. And that's kind of the gimmick of the album, is every song's a minute long. So you're getting 15 tracks, a minute long. Yeah. And Terra herself is kind of making this very whack world and stuff, this very weird world. And that comes across in a lot of the visuals. This whole album has a whole visual to it. You can go watch on YouTube. There's a whole visual for it. And some of the visuals are very interesting, and some of the stuff she says on it is pretty funny. Like when she mentions the fact that, you know, if I was white, I probably would have blew up overnight. And there's another great line. And there's very comedic lines. I know there's one in particular where one of the choruses, she's like, oh, he says he likes my diamonds and my pearls. I said, thank you, I designed it. You know, and other stuff where she's saying, oh, showing off, feeling white like I'm Ellen. And I'm like, ooh, okay. But there are some very interesting lines and very comedic stuff, like with song. Like it's a very silly album, and it kind of lives up to the title of Whack World. But there are some very serious ideas, obviously talking about like race and mainstream stuff. And even when she does present these very weird, like there's one song where she kind of has this weird Southern American accent, but yet she's talking about like issues with her father and other people's issues with the fact that they keep bringing up the fact they might have issues with their fathers leaving them and stuff like that, but presented in this weird like high pitched American accent. So it's a very strange album, and also there's a very interesting Alice in Wonderland reference towards the end of it. Number 5, I'm going to go with Kali Uchis with Isolation, although I like to call it the American Dream because that's kind of what the album is to some extent. Kali Uchis' debut album, really strong, really love this album. I talked about it on the podcast previously, and it's just gotten better over time. It does definitely feel like her first album, and there are some moments where Kelly is a bit, maybe not the strongest singer of all time, but some of the features she has on there, like Tyler the Creator, Bootsy Collins, technically the Gorillaz feature on this album, although it is a technicality. You also have, I'm forgetting the other singer who sounds a bit like Rihanna. She's on there as well. And I can't remember. Georgia Smith. I think it's Georgia Smith. Smith. That's a person, right? I don't know. She's on it, but a really nice singer-songwriter album that definitely almost has like a song that's of a different vibe and era, where you have like songs that have a little bit more of a dancey vibe, and there's even like one whole song where it's completely in Latin American, which is quite interesting to hear. But very strong album. Number 4 is going to Cara Cara Bonita with Time and Place. Much like a lot of Cara Cara Bonita fans, I was pretty scared when their sound wasn't the same J-pop bubblegum vibe, and it was this weird garage rock, noise rock sound, and I was like, what the hell is going on? But weirdly enough, this album works, and it still keeps those very sweet and funny and bubblegum like themes on it, but it also has like that very harsh like rock ideas, like those do come through, but you have some very interesting and odd songs. Like there's one song which is literally just a campfire sing-along, as well as like the ending song, which is just complete experimental nonsense. Like it's a very interesting album, and the fact that they went from, you know, songs like Flamingo and Trampoline to songs dealing with like my future self and almost being famous and these other like almost crisis situations is very interesting, and it's I give him absolute props for like not only taking on a completely different genre where most people wouldn't even dare do, but doing it well as well was pretty interesting. Number 3 is going to MGMT with Little Dark Age, by far the darkest album maybe of the year. This album is like just dark.
Yeah.
And I know this is a very common thing, but this album is dark from every aspect, in every kind of context. It's very dark and weird, and it's really is strange. Like, you got songs which are, you know, they're intentionally like dark. Or you got like Me and Michael, which is a song about a friendship that can never die, but it's also a song about like the music industry. And then you have like obviously Little Dark Age itself, which according to the band themselves seems to be about internet culture and bullying in a weird way, and that kind of makes sense when you hear some of the lines where it's like, when you wake up at night and see me standing over your bed and stuff like that, and you know, this referring to Little Dark Age kind of makes sense when they say that, because it doesn't come across in the music video or song for the most part. And I do like songs like When You Die as well, which is a very, very pessimistic song where I think the main chorus of it is him basically saying, you know, I'm not that nice, I'm mean and I'm evil, you know, and basically, don't you have somewhere to be, you know, and basically talking about like, you know, when you die, no one's gonna miss you, we're all gonna laugh.
Oh,
you
that's
know,
dark.
And it is a very dark like song, and but at the same time, I kind of feel like some people have probably been in that situation, even if it's just for a moment, you know, waking up badly or something like that. And you also have songs like Time Spent Looking at My Phone, which is a very accurate depiction of how people kind of socialize and interact with their phones, and even having a very kind of bleepity bloopity like soundtrack that's very Daft Punk like to kind of emulate the phones. And even towards the end, when he's kind of mentioning this fact that he doesn't want to go outside, he doesn't want to talk to these people, but yet there's this female singer is kind of talking about how, oh, you missed your chance, you're never gonna like get this or get that if you keep looking at your phone. There's even one point towards the end where she's kind of singing, and then it kind of just devolves into do 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 do, and I'm like, and I thought to myself, why are they ending the song like this? And I'm like, wow, you're not paying attention. You're too busy on your phone. You don't care what the song's saying, which I thought was pretty interesting. Number 2 is gonna go to Idols with the Joy as an Act of Resistance.
Yeah.
This album made me want to destroy something because it's that hard of a punk album. It starts off with the song Colossal, which my god, that's an angry song. Yeah. Where he's just basically, the lead singer almost sings with, it was almost like he's gritting his teeth with this such anger, and he's basically, you know, they laugh at me when I run, I waste away for fun, and it's got this great like hook where it just goes into a more traditional punk vibe, and it's a very angry, almost hate-filled song, and it immediately goes straight into the song Never Fight a Man with a Perm, which is a great situation about him maybe being at some kind of situation with this other guy, and he's basically insulting this guy, and at the same time it does kind of say never fight a man with a perm, but at the same time he's just throwing these very accurate insults, where there's one in particular where he basically says, you know, you're not a man, you're a gland, you know, you're just you know, you're just like, I think he even refers to him as just being like, you know, having just big sausage hands, and even saying like there's a great bit where he kind of says, you are a top shot tyrant, even your haircut's violent. You know, which is great, and you know, and the screaming of never fight a man with a perm, which is great. It's a very angry and somewhat dark album, but there are very interesting and odd songs. Like there's one song in particular where it does start out with him saying, if someone talked to you the way you do to you, I'd put their teeth through. Love yourself. And basically the chorus and the idea of the song is he's basically saying, you know, I go outside and I feel free because I smash mirrors and fuck TV. And it's basically a pretty interesting take on, like, you know, kind of the way media is kind of portraying people and how people want to change themselves, and they make reference to that, even to the one point where he says, you know, he spoke to God last night and she said I'd go to heaven if my teeth were white.
Ooh.
Which is very interesting. But then you have other very interesting other songs where he basically is listing all these things. He's like, man up, drink up, socks off, don't whine, don't complain, And he basically says, this mask of masculinity is a mask that's wearing me. And he says, this is why your dad doesn't cry. This is why you never see your father cry, because of stuff like this. And even the ending of the album itself, which is literally called Rockweiler, which I dare you not to sing to that song, as they just basically scream, Rockweiler, Rockweiler, Rockweiler. Ends with like him and basically I'd imagine the band just destroying the equipment. He's like, fuck it, burn the world, burn your house down, keep going, keep fucking going.
This was an album that I didn't get to listen to properly.
Well, I'll give you a copy of it because you need to listen to it.
I do.
And number one is an album I don't even need to explain because you guys all know what this album is going to be, and it's simply AAL 2012 to 2017. Right, moving on, because I don't need to explain that album.
Oh, no.
Everyone already knows what AAL is.
Of course, yeah.
Right, moving on to... No, I'm joking. AAL 2012 to 2017 is, well, basically AAL stands for Against All Logic, and it is essentially the other name for Nicholas Jar, who is an electronic producer. Basically, he was under this name making these songs, and he just dropped these songs just out of nowhere, didn't even really say it was him. And this is a perfect example of how just simple quality production can produce some of the best electronic songs I've heard in such a while, because he uses a lot of old samples in this album that fit and are work so well that you wouldn't even know they are samples. These songs could have come out, if I crushed the audio, they could have come out in the 90s or the 80s. And they just work so well, and I think even the album cover itself is just so simple. It just says AAL 2012-18, just lists all the albums, all the songs. That's it. It's so simple. And some of the songs on this are just so fantastic. Like the first song, which I believe is simply called This Old House. It starts off with this very distorted, like, crush. You can hear, like, someone singing in the background, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And it just immediately cuts into this funky groove out of nowhere. And as this very soul singer is kind of going, this old house of mine, and you're just like, okay. Immediately cuts straight into the next song, I Never Dream, which is this, it has, like, this chopped up, like kind of beat throughout it, and it has, like, this very weird and looped sample which you can't even make out, which I guess kind of goes with the whole dreamlike state because it's constantly repeating and the bass comes in. And other songs like I'm trying to remember the name of the next song, but I can't remember. There's another song which has like this Some Kind of Game, which has like this vicious like piano beat and this repeated beat that constantly changes in different like audible ways. This is dun 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 throughout the whole track, but it constantly changes to be more bassy, to be more piano-ish, and throughout the whole album. And you've got really great songs like You're Gonna Wanna Hug Me and Scream, which
that sounds perfect.
Which is like this very distorted and glitchy song where you literally do have someone like kind of literally as almost like a very tragic and poetic comment saying, you're gonna wanna hug me and scream, but then it kind of gets glitchy and destroyed up. And other really great tracks, especially the ending song, which is titled Rave You, or You Rave, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's this 10-minute epic song which just constantly keeps changing, gets faster, and it's almost like a space battle to some extent.
Damn.
And obviously I'm not talking about every single song because I don't want to harp on for too long, but my goodness, such a strong album. That's why it's my favorite. Definitely check this one out if you are interested in electronic music, if you want to get into it. I will quickly go through worst albums, because my worst albums and most disappointing don't really need any mention. The worst album I listened to was Kanye West with Ye.
Fair enough.
This album was trash. I completely disagree with it. Unfortunately, most disappointing album was Ice Age with Beyondless. I was really looking forward to this album, especially as soon as this album has one of my favorite songs of the year on it, but it sounded too messy and too all over the place for me to really like care too much about it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of albums done for the most part. I guess we'll go back. I think you're pretty much done. Are you done with music?
I'm done with music, yeah.
Al, are you done with music?
Yeah, done with music.
Okay, so it just leaves me to just go through the last few things. So EPs, honorable mention, I'm going to give to, number one would be DJ Harris with 1996. This is technically a beat tape, but we're counting mixtapes and beat tapes. Really fun stuff. It honestly sounds like he mixed it right there on the spot. And it's got like this great energy, this great speed, and I love the samples where there's just this great bit where this guy's going, "What's that shit you playing the other night?" And there's other bit where the guy's going, "Oh my god." And it's just throughout the whole thing, which kind of gives it this little bit more of a sample, like live kind of vibe, which I absolutely loved. Best favorite EPs, which I'm kind of, number 2, Kero Kero Bonito with Totep, or Totep. I'm not sure how exactly to pronounce it.
Yeah.
This was the precursor to the actual album, which obviously made people go, "What? They're doing like garage rock on that." It is very rough around the edges, but it kind of was a like a stepping stone to kind of see if the sound worked. And it does have some great lines. It's very ominous to some extent. Like you have songs like "The One True Path," which possibly refers to some kind of cult or dark issue, and obviously the song "Only Acting" falls in this as well as "Cinema," which is a very sweet, like almost electronic, like trip hop kind of vibe to it, which is very nice, about lead singer Sarah basically going to the cinema and the experience. And there's a very nice anagram which basically says, the credits are falling, but yet the old couple doesn't leave, and it's it's kind of interesting, and it was a very nice precursor. But favorite EP, it's got to go to the boy Aphex Twin with Collapse.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to grab my iPod because I need to get the titles of these songs on this EP, because my goodness, some of these songs. So the main song, which everyone who's had the music video, was T69 Collapse, which is this vicious, almost frightening, almost like 5-minute song where it's like, it honestly feels like a collapse. Like the song is collapsing and there's this weird alternating like sounds and vibes and all this kind of stuff. And then you move on to the next song, which is called First 44, which also has like this very weird sample of this guy shouting something, but it has like this very like lo-fi kind of like tapping kind of creepy noise, which is very bizarre. And the other song I want to mention, which is the title called Abundance 10 Edit, and it has a brackets, and the full name of this song, apart from being called Abundance, is 2R8 FZ 20M and A909 in brackets.
Okay.
This song is a very creepy and like kind of chilling song, which does kind of have like a very weird kind of undertone for the most part. But I absolutely love this EP. Definitely his most vicious and his fastest EP to date. I cannot get enough of this because I'm just like, what is going on? For the most part. And music videos I run down. I mainly have favorites now. With music videos and songs, a lot of them are technically on the both same list, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself. So basically everything on music videos is also on my songs, which I will mention as well. So I'm going to run down really quickly with favorite music videos. First I want to get into Gorilla Toss with Meteorological. Excuse me. This is how you make a video with no budget and a green screen. It's basically lead singer basically singing about the weather in various costumes behind a green screen to some extent, and it is very funny. Number 9 is going to Unknown Mortal Orchestra with Honey Bee, which is a fantastically animated music video about a train ride where almost anything could go wrong. Next I'm going to give to number 8 is going to Kamashi Washington with Street Fighter Mass. This is a very interesting music video which revolves around playing a arcade game of Street Fighter.
I remember you showing me this.
Which is very funny. Number 7 is actually going to Terawak with Mumbo Jumbo. Now this music video is very strange in that there's clearly a message in what it's saying, but we don't know what its intent is. This actually got nominated for the best music video at the Oscars, weirdly enough. And the reason it's called Mumbo Jumbo is because we don't know what Terawak is even saying, because in the music video she has like a retainer thing in her mouth as these dentists are doing some kind of operation on her. So obviously everything she said is very mumbled. It's very hard to make out what she's saying, but the music video has a very distilled and very disturbing kind of feel, like something doesn't feel right in this. And as things escalate, which I won't spoil, you see that come true. Number 6 is going to Gorillaz with Humility, yes. Very fun music video. Nice blend of animation and live action. Jack Black appears, and obviously a lot of other characters as well, which is nice. Number 5, Czarface and MF Doom, Bomb Throne. This is a music video which combines about 3 different eras of stop motion animation and general animation to present this kind of odd it feels like a kid made this music video, but a very competent kid, and it's a very lovely and funny video. Number 4 is going to Ski Master Slump God with Do I Have the Sauce? Perfect name. This music video basically has Busta Rhymes-esque vibes in terms of he's basically walking around in this orange jacket with like fake blonde hair and a mustache, and he's basically like, yeah, he's the guy, and there's other visuals of him holding a Chucky doll, and he's just like, yeah, you know, it's a very silly music video, but it makes sense to some extent. Number 3 is going to Kelly Uchis featuring Tyler the Creator and Bootsy Collins with After the Storm. Perfect music video, lots of fun, and it kind of does lead into the whole positive outlook of the song with this very kind of almost like 60s-esque like ideal family lifestyle, which kind of plays into the album and the song. Number 2 going to Denzel Curry with Colt Cobain. Fantastic music video, and it's a shame that the Joker films will not emulate this at all. Very interesting what it's saying about the state of rap and the state of the music industry, and some of the visuals are very interesting, and it's kind of a shame too many people slept on this song. Number 1 obviously is going to Childish Gambino with This Is America. Fantastically directed and choreographed music video, which I think is going to speak for many years. Quickly going to go through songs. I only have best and worst. My best songs, I kind of had to add a few, so let me see, is going to number 6 is going to DOS with You. No one's ever heard of DOS, and that's completely understandable because no one's really heard this song, but this song is essentially this very weird and somewhat tragically sad song which has this very interesting electronic beat, and it samples the kid who stutters on the thing he's about to say for like about a minute.
Wow.
You know, the kid, some of you probably seen it where the kid's like, have you ever had a dream? And it basically takes that sample and with the music kind of uses it in this weird kind of sad way where it's like maybe someone reflecting on their life and kind of remembering this quote in some weird kind of way. Number 5 is going to go to Superorganism with Everyone Wants to Be Famous. This is a really fun, really catchy song. Superorganism is a very weird band, which if you've seen them play live, they are constantly using sound effects even during their live performances, even if that just means biting into an apple or blowing bubbles into water. That's what they do. Very fun music video and a very interesting song that kind of talks about fame and the fact that people want to be famous and the whole idea of like the media culture and stuff like that in a very funny way, because the lead singer doesn't know she gives a damn. It's just kind of how she sings, and that's kind of just her personality. Number 4 is going to Jerry Paper with Your Cocoon. Very weird music video, but this is Jerry Paper has a very odd and a very interesting singing voice, but I love what he kind of sings on this. Definitely watch the music video, I would say. Number 3, Tyler the Creator and A$AP Rocky with Potato Salad. This honestly feels like they just decided to just do this rap song to this beat that Kanye West made. And it's a very interesting song because it has like this almost like twinkling, chiming effect, which kind of sounds like very cute to some extent, but it sounds like they're just rapping, and I do like a lot of lines where like Tyler is basically saying like, you know, I can't do this, you know, pass the controller like the little brother, and you know, A$AP has some very funny lines where he essentially says like, you know, I don't rock Chanel, I rock Channel. You know, you know, basically saying it's not a purse, it's a satchel, you know, and kind of talking about like this, you know, even mentions, you know, oh, you know, talking about the state of like mumble rapping, you know, I find it hard, you know, he basically says, I find it hard to find actual talent, I find it hard to find an actual challenge, you know, and stuff like that. Number 2 is going to Ice Age with Catch It. This is a pretty brutal and intense song where the guy is just relentless. He's going, you catch it, catch it, catch it. You know, it honestly feels like the lost song of the Crow film. It has that kind of like vibe of it to some extent. And number 1 is actually once again going to Childish Gambino with Feels Like Summer. This is an amazing song which it kind of is very nostalgic in the way it's paced, and I think the reason I didn't put this as number 1 for music video was just because I like This Is America a bit more. But the music video itself is kind of interesting. I don't know if you've seen the music video where it depicts roughly mostly all current black and rappers and singers.
I think I have seen the music
in an animated way, but it presents it as if Childish Gambino is just walking down the street and he's just seeing these people as just normal neighbors down his neighborhood. And it's a very interesting video, especially given some of the ways they depict some people. Like, it's some of them you'll know who they are, and some of them you won't. But it does have a very interesting and chilling kind of vibe to it, where there's one visual in particular where you see what is meant to be Kanye West wearing a manga hat, and then you see what seems to be Michelle Obama kind of coming behind him and hugging him. You know, and there's another nice reference to XXX Tacchiote or whatever the hell he's called, where some guy in a business suit is kind of eating an ice cream that has like the black and yellow hairstyle of him, and he puts it down and it kind of melts. And there's another very interesting reference where they do make reference to Michael Jackson at the very end, almost as if to say this is the guy that started it all, but they use his look right before his first album, interestingly enough, and he just kind of laughs when you see him.
That's interesting.
And it's very interesting that they would use that look and present him in that kind of way. And I absolutely love the song because it's very nostalgic, despite I don't have too much like connection to that stuff. But it's very interesting. I'll quickly breeze through Worst because Worst don't need to be really acknowledged that much. Worst, number 2 is going to be Travis Scott featuring Drake with Sicko Mode. Dumb people saying this is our generation's Bohemian Rhapsody. A lot of people keep saying this, and I was like, oh, I guess this song might be something. I listened to it, and I was laughing. Like, it's the most generic trap. If you've heard a trap song, you've heard this song. This is really bad. It's a joke, this song. Like, Travis Scott's album, I didn't even put anywhere on my list, because it was just nothing, in my opinion. I was just like, you're gonna try and talk about psychedelic, but you just made a rap album.
Yeah.
My number 1 worst song is going to Kanye West and Lil Pump with I Love It, I Love It, I Love It.
Is that the one that had the really terrible music video?
Yeah.
Where they basically look like they're from Minecraft.
Oh god.
Yeah, I don't get. I hated this song. I've technically never fully listened to it.
Yeah.
But I've heard it played enough where I think I've actually heard it all.
Oh wow!
I've never sat down and listened to the whole song, but I've heard certain sections of it. But then again, all that's really said is I love it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm missing that much, and I think it's just such an irritating song that doesn't really do anything or like serve any real purpose for the most part. So that's why I'm putting it number 1, and is given everything that those two people stand for as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to our next main section, which is going to be books.
Yeah.
We're starting with you, Ace.
So I'm going to start with one that I found disappointing. Actually, I will say there were a few books that I didn't get around to, quite a few sci-fis, and even the one that won like best of awards everywhere being Milkman. I didn't get around to reading it, and I feel really sad that I didn't, because everyone loves it.
Okay.
So disappointing is the comic book Multiple Man. It had fantastic covers. They looked amazing. But the actual comic itself, story-wise, it was just really nothing special. It was just like, here's clones and time travel. And it's like, oh hey, here's Multiple Man is Deadpool. It was like, it's okay, I guess. It was disappointing because of how good the cover art was. I guess don't judge a book by a cover is pretty apt.
Unfortunately.
So on to the actual top 10.
Okay.
Starting with number 10, Mr. Miracle, the DC comic book. I had a 12-issue run, and it's essentially an exploration of anxiety and depression within this super escape artist. The plot actually starts off with him trying to escape death by killing himself and coming back to life, and he succeeds? Question mark. But what follows is incredibly well drawn, well written questions, I'd say, including the constant reference of Darkseid is, which is a phrase used by the character Darkseid.
Okay.
It's really good, and Tom King is a really good writer, so yeah. It's probably one of the best DC comics this year.
Who would have known?
Number 9 is Astro City. It's technically volume 3, but if you look at the trade paperbacks, it's like volume 16, because there's been over 100 issues, and there've been different publishers all the time, so it's so weird. This series has explored comic book history from the Golden Age all the way up to modern stuff, actually tackling modern issues, which is fascinating, even using essentially like revolution and people rioting and the concept of that as a superhero, which is fascinating. It's probably one of the best and most underrated comic books about superheroes ever.
Okay.
It always tackles the human aspect. A lot of times the main character of a comic about interdimensional travel will be a human, with superheroes on the side, which is fascinating, and you don't see too often. Number 8 is Paper Girls, which is the 80s throwback kind of Goonies style, where 4 paper girls go on a weird interdimensional time travel journey.
Okay.
And it's just so perfectly written.
Still on my list. Still need to get to this one.
Yeah. Written by Brian K. Vaughan, well known for Saga and Runaways. Excellent. And I highly recommend everyone get into it, especially if you like 80s themes or even just good writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Number 7?
Yeah, should be.
Yeah. Is Delicious in Dungeon, the manga.
Oh, yeah.
About dungeon explorers who like to cook food.
Oh, cool.
They hunt monsters and make food out of those monsters.
Oh, that is
From
cool.
mimic chests to underwater horse monsters.
Wow.
All kinds of great...
Sounds a bit like Toriko.
I don't know too much
It's
about
quite
Toriko.
similar. It's a little bit similar to Toriko, a lot less fighting.
But it is incredible. It even teaches real-life recipes, albeit using monster ingredients.
Oh, wow.
Well, because it actually has all the things there, which is perfect. And the characters themselves are hilarious, and it's just perfectly written. It's great art, too.
What's this called again?
Delicious in Dungeon. The Japanese name is Dungeon Meshi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't put this on the list because I only read, the first chapter, and I hadn't read anything that's been released this year, so that's why I didn't count it.
It's on its 6th volume, 42 chapters.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Still ongoing. Number 6 is My Hero Academia.
What a surprise! Oh no!
It's currently on volume 21, and it's got over 200 chapters, and it still goes strong. And I love
Nothing compared to One Piece.
I know. One Piece is at 1,000 or something.
Almost.
My good boy Bakugo's still the best. He's doing everything right, like a good boy should.
He's not a dog.
He basically is. Have you seen how he acts? Exactly. A tight leash and he'll be a good. But it's doing great. It's going through all the kind of arcs and stuff that, let's say, Naruto does, but I think it introduces a lot of more interesting characters, because after a time Naruto just kind of stops with new characters. While this is constantly bringing in new ones.
Okay.
And specifically lots of great villains, stuff that I didn't even think about before. I love it. Number 5, which is East of West. Okay. It's the post-apocalyptic Bible punk weird western, which is a fascinatingly weird thing dealing with just the splintering of America and how the Horsemen of Apocalypse are essentially planning on destroying it all.
Oh.
Following the main character Death as he decides to leave them and have a child.
Okay.
It is amazing and so damn creative. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Is it still ongoing?
Yep, it's still ongoing. It's 38 issues.
Okay.
Volume 8.
Okay.
It is fantastic. I think they've separated them into acts, so it's kind of like Act 1 and 2 are over. Mm-hmm. So...
Okay, fair enough. I just wasn't sure if it was still going or not, that's all.
Number 4 is Fire Punch, another manga. It's on... it's finished, Volume 8, Issue 83.
Okay.
It's actually post-apocalypse, in which a woman known as the Ice Witch has frozen the world.
Okay.
And people have to now survive, and we follow our main character, Agni, who has the ability to regenerate.
Oh, cool.
And because it's post-apocalyptic, everything's frozen, it's hard to get food, so he feeds his hometown by cutting off parts of his body to feed them, which he then grows back.
Oh, yeah.
But he is set on fire by someone who has an ability that whatever they set on fire will basically burn until it's dead.
Oh.
He can't die, so he's permanently ablaze in permanent pain.
Oh.
Yes, and it is a fantastic manga about...
That actually sounds really good, actually.
Yeah. Essentially, if superpowers literally took over the world, it's crazy and very dark. Like, there's full frontal nudity many points, so it is very mature.
Okay.
And it deals with very dark themes. Like, literally one character will get their legs cut off and just held somewhere because they're a battery now to power the city.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's not light at all. So, very big warning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 3 is Immortal Hulk.
Okay.
One of the only good Hulk comics for me in life. I never liked many others. And this one returns him to what the character should be, a horror monster.
Okay.
He's literally depicted as very classic 1940s Tales from the Crypt style. In the shadows, monstrous, and even from different perspectives, shown as a different thing. One point, a police officer, I believe, is talking about him, and he's depicted as like a hero, like a caped crusader.
Oh,
and
wow.
this other woman is like this grotesque beast that's trying to kill this attractive man. It's a fascinating comic, and I'm surprised Marvel allowed it to happen with a big character.
Nice.
So, yeah. Number 2, another manga which is still ongoing. It's 40 issues and volume 8 so far, which is Happiness. It's a manga about a young boy who becomes a vampire.
Okay.
And again, this one is also very mature in its themes. There is nudity again. And it's honestly beautiful.
Alright.
At points when he turns into a vampire and he's feeling bloodlust, everything gets wavy and almost that he can't see properly. And even points when he looks at the sky as a vampire, it almost looks like Vincent van Gogh's Starry Skies painting.
Oh, wow.
Which is fascinating. And
that's pretty cool.
Smoke weed every day.
Basically,
Yeah.
being a vampire and needing blood, you're basically weed. But I've not heard anyone talking about this manga, which is such a shock.
I've heard of it. I do know of it, and I've seen a lot of the artwork, and I am quite interested in it, but I've never heard anyone talk about it.
It is fantastic and probably one of the best pieces of vampire fiction I've seen in a while.
Oh.
Not better than Twilight, though.
Oh.
You got to admit, Twilight's pretty good in the baseball scene. It's got thunder.
It's got wolves in it.
Oh,
Oh, no.
And number 1, and this one's going to be obvious if you ever heard me talk about comics before, it's Saga, Volume 9, Issue 54. It's the continuation of the fantastically mature space opera, which is being described as Game of Thrones meets Star Wars.
Oh, right.
Which is wrong.
Yeah, I agree, it is wrong, but that's the basic
Okay.
thing for people. It's more like Romeo and Juliet / Star Wars and mature stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And it is going on amazingly strong, and it's still sad to see one specific image, and I hate that character forever for what they did.
Oh, what did they do?
I can't
that's
say
a
it's a
spoiler.
massive
Oh.
spoiler, especially to a character like that who everyone loves.
Alright.
Rest in peace. That is my books. It's number 1 Saga.
Fair enough. We're not looking at you as if to say, like, oh, how could you? But just waiting. Al, do you have anything regarding books?
No.
And I don't have anything regarding books. I only want to give a quick mention to Plus Size Elves, which is a manga that finally got released. And this series is basically about what the title implies. There's a world. I haven't read it all, so I don't quite know all the rules. But it's basically, there's this elf, and she's pretty damn fat. And she is meant to be an archer, and it's kind of like the main character and other characters kind of, let's get in weight, let's get a bit fit, and it is a bit like a Monster Museum kind of like series. But I haven't read it all, but it has some funny stuff, some nudity in this series, but they do have some funny concepts and some pretty cool ideas. Like they meet like a mermaid character who I can't remember what they say exactly to her, but she's like, yeah, look at all these like eggs I have, and they're like, oh, they're delicious. She's like, that's my children.
Okay.
And she's obviously like pretty distraught, and there's like another character who's like this weird werewolf character, and it gets to the point where because she's like training, because it's almost all about fitness and like body image in a pretty funny kind of way. And there's one scene with this werewolf character where like he basically realizes that she's basically like a dog, so if he says like sit, she'll sit uncontrollably. And it gets to the point where he stresses her or overwhelms her so much, he's like, I can't stop begging, I need you to stroke me. And he's like, oh my god, I feel so bad, because she can't go on now, which is quite hilarious. But yeah, some really interesting designs to how they've done some of these characters. Especially, I've never seen like a fat elf character.
Yeah, I've seen one, and it was in the game Overlord. And it's essentially like after the journey of, almost like after the Lord of the Rings, where they beat the big bad and now they're just chilling out, but they become villains themselves. And the elf is, because he's so lazy, he's just become fat.
Yeah.
So,
fair enough. Yeah, it is quite funny. It has some very strong visuals and some very strong characters, and it does get a bit questionable, but It is a pretty fun. I can't wait to read the rest of it. And I guess we will move on to films. All right, so Ace, do you want to do your films? And I guess that'd be feature length, right?
Yeah.
Feature length first, yeah.
So I'm going to do some my only disappointing and only worst first. And then I'm going to get into the best stuff.
Come a bit closer to the mic for me, man. Yeah, I feel like maybe people might not be able to hear you. Go on.
Okay. Should I just start from that? Or?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So for disappointing, I kind of talked about this already, being Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I think it's just because of how hyped and how everyone's like, oh, it's the best superhero film ever. It's just...
Hype can really kill your enjoyment of a film.
Can actually.
I know.
I agree.
And yeah, it feels really annoying that it's like everyone's really enjoying it. It's like, I don't see it. Help me see it. I don't.
I mean, maybe someday on another video we might go into this film to some extent. I don't know, but that's understandable, I guess.
And my worst of being Slender Man.
Oh, you actually saw that?
I did see Slender Man.
Okay.
I can barely remember anything about it because it's so fucking dull. And it's even hard to comprehend because it just flops about everywhere. I can't even break it down.
That's how bad it is. Damn.
It just goes in and out of plots like it's trying on new clothes.
It has about 50, doesn't it?
It does, and I can barely remember anything. All I remember is it was really shit and the acting was terrible. I don't know where they got these kids, but send them back.
Oh boy. Send them into the forest.
Send them back to America.
Oh.
They're just really creepy looking as well.
Oh no, don't be like that.
No, I'm being mean. I apologise.
No, say they're bad actors. Don't be.
I know.
Like that.
I'm being sincere about that, despite that sounding sarcastic. Now it sounds like I'm being sarcastic about that. I'm moving on.
Move on, yes. Move on.
So my honourable mentions, number 10 being Shrek Retold. Because this was amazing, and it was like a sincere throwback to the love of Shrek, which I love, except for one segment that felt too sarcastic for me.
Okay.
But everything else, it felt great, and I was so happy, and I watched this with my brother, and we laughed a lot. It was a very good time. It's a
hilarious film.
Yeah.
I weirdly find myself quoting some of it to some extent. Like there's a few times where I find myself going, is that a Lord Ford quote or is that my lunch?
Yeah, exactly.
Al, did you see Shrek Untold?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay, I need to send you a link to Shrek Retold because it's basically they retake, they remake to some extent Shrek.
Yeah,
right,
like I got a good few hundred people to remake scenes from Shrek.
Yeah, they each do that. So some will be live action, some will be animation, some will be just stills.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
it's all over the place.
At one point, someone's just talking and saying the script in front of the camera, which is brilliant.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't think enough people had talked about it.
No, I know YMS actually did a mini review on it, which was, I really appreciate him doing that, which is great.
Yeah. Number 9 is American Animals. Mm-hmm. I actually saw this near the end of the year, which I was finally happy I got to.
Thank goodness.
Really good kind of faux documentary style, which, weirdly enough, and because of one of the actors in it, reminded me of American Horror Story Roanoke, which had similar style. But I think this pulled it off better. Okay. And there was even a segment which I know, as soon as I kind of say about it, you'll know what I mean. Okay. Where something kind of wraps around from a midpoint to the end.
Yeah.
Which, at first I was like, why? And I was like, that's pretty good. I like that. And it was just incredibly well acted. Such tense scenes at points where I was on the edge. I was like, what's happening? It's almost like that meme face of that guy whose face is
his strange face.
It was like that, and very good. Probably one of the best heist films in a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Number 8 is Isle of Dogs. It's I'm going to forget its name, Wes Anderson.
Yes.
The new Wes Anderson film, another stop motion one, all about dogs, specifically an island full of them. Oh. And I like dogs, so it instantly appealed to me, and I really liked it. It's not my favourite Wes Anderson, but it's just got so much of his quirk that I like.
Okay.
Number 6? 7? 6? I think it's 6. 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Avengers Infinity War. So I don't really need to say much. I think it's almost the end of the Marvel universe, I guess, and this film kind of solidifies why.
Yeah, big
it's
time.
All coming together and incredibly well done, to say the least.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, considering some of the mess over the years, which, you know, Ant-Man was still a mess as well. Well, not Ant-Man and Wasp was so lackluster. Number 6, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the anthology western that came out to Netflix this year. Whilst I loved some segments so much, if they were their own film, they probably would be on the top.
Oh, wow.
Other bits hold them down. Specifically one that goes on for way too long and is the worst segment of... It's also the longest. Which is not great. However, some segments are still so good, you should watch them. The first, second and third are fantastic. I think the fourth one is 2, but then 5, no. 6, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah. Almost just watch the first bits and the last bits, nah.
Okay.
Number 5 is Animal World, being the Chinese film, essentially about very Death Note style, but they're all just playing kind of rock, paper, scissors with cards.
Okay.
But it's to pay off your debts.
Oh.
In international waters by an American. It is fantastic, very satirical, with a lot of weird action as well, where the main character is suddenly a clown fighting mutant animal people.
Okay.
It's great, and no one's talked about it at all. Upgrade, and this is where I got to start my theme thing.
So number 4, right?
Yes, number 4. So Upgrade is the first of, I think, 5 films on mine that are something bad happens to a woman this dude knows and he gets revenge. The problem is all 5 of these were really good.
Yeah.
But it's weird that 5 happened this year.
Oh, right, okay.
And were all good. So there's some issues with them just on account of, you know, they're all doing the same thing. But they all did it such stylistically different and interesting that I like them all. This one essentially goes the kind of cyberpunk-ish route, where after his wife is killed, he ends up becoming sort of an experiment to help someone and kind of get revenge in his own way, despite him being told he's not allowed out.
Okay.
And there is some weird acting in this that works extraordinarily well, and some very odd walking, which I love. It's almost robotic in a joke way.
Okay.
But it's perfect. And the main guy who's kind of who helps him turn into robot-y man, he's so good at being villainous. Not even in a I'm the bad guy, but in a I'm just this really pathetic person. So, and there's a really good bounty hunter assassin-y guy. He's great. Number 3 is Sorry to Bother You. This was the satirical American comedy by Boots Riley about a man named Cassius Green, which isn't subtle and intentionally not subtle because green cash, who ends up working at a telemarketing company, and his friends try to start a union, but he still needs the money.
Right.
So he doesn't go along with it. It's got a perfect white voice in this film, where the characters on the phone, in order to sell stuff, they put in their white voice, in which they literally dub over the actors with a white voice.
Oh,
hilarious!
That's an
I need to go see this film.
It's fantastic,
I need to go see this.
And it gets dark and comical near the end in a bit you wouldn't expect, which is horrifying.
Oh, all right.
Really good.
Yeah, I have to go watch that at some point.
Number 2, the Japanese film Love and Other Cults. Essentially, a kind of over the several years, seeing how someone's moving into different groups and societies affects them and how they see that as love. From going into a cult to a group of delinquents and finally into a kind of gang. With the side characters also moving on their own journey surrounding this as well. Including one of my favourite, the leader of the kind of delinquent gang, who, he doesn't seem like a bad guy, but the guy who's with him is really pushing him around. And he kind of seems a bit disturbed. But it's a very interesting look at how groups form love, in a sense. And number 1 for honourable mentions is Cam, which was the kind of surreal cam girl horror film, essentially on the exploration of identity and other people's view of you. Which, great, yeah. I think I talked about this on the podcast before.
I think you did, yes.
Yeah, and it's got a fantastic poster. Very influenced by Perfect Blue.
Yeah.
So now for my actual top 10. Number 10 is The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro. I think it came out in February, and no one in the UK seemed to talk about it at all.
No.
And
So it won the Oscar.
Yeah, exactly. It won the Oscar, which is good. I really liked it. It's essentially if you took Abe Sapien from Hellboy, or obviously the Gill Man from the classic
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, Black Lagoon films, and put him into a kind of love story.
Okay.
And it's incredibly well directed and great visuals. There's one scene that I'm pretty sure is why it won the Oscar, but I don't like that scene. It's too on the nose for me. In
that
a way,
scene?
Yes.
Okay.
But the rest of the film, I really like. Michael Shannon is a beast in this film. Like, he's a massive dickhead, and I love it. Ever since he did that weird growly pitbull voice in Man of Steel, I've liked him as an actor.
I will find him.
I will find him. Perfect. Number 9 is Halloween.
Which one?
Exactly. I was going to get into...
Because I said only films that came out in the last few years. You can't be putting the original John Carpenter film in there.
Halloween 3, but not Halloween 3. The third Halloween.
Okay.
That's Halloween 1. You know what I mean.
Or you could say Halloween 2018.
Exactly, yeah. Halloween 2018, which was a sequel to the original Halloween 1979, I think?
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm going to get that year wrong. But essentially a really great sequel that expands on those themes and looks at how time has changed through those years and how it can still affect people after so long, including looking at victimhood and even removing the kind of moralism that early slashers had, which was fascinating. And I don't think anyone else has talked about that element. So, really great sequel, which... I think people like it, but I don't think they like it for the right reasons.
No, I don't.
Right.
Yeah. Number 8, which I definitely talked about this on this podcast before, which is Brawl in Cell Block 99. The Vince Vaughn film. It's the second one of the Man Gets Revenge films. After his pregnant wife is essentially kidnapped and he's sent to prison, he's trying to get his revenge.
Okay.
And it is brutal in the most grindhouse, gruesome... hilarious way.
Oh, right.
Including some of the special effects where it's intentionally sillily grotesque. And I love it, and the action is some of the best I've seen. Like, it's down to earth, but you feel those punches. It's like you can hear someone next to you punching meat.
Jeez.
It's really good.
Is it like kind of as grotesque as like Raid? Like...
Almost. I'd say it's... Obviously, it wouldn't have the martial arts and everything, but it certainly has the grotesqueness of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Number 7? Yeah, 7 is Annihilation, the sci-fi starring Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac, which were tremendous in these films. Especially Oscar Isaac, that specific scene of Oscar Isaac in the camera, that was disturbing in the best way possible, especially what it meant. Essentially them exploring this weird zone after just weird stuff has happened to it, and now they're exploring it to find out what and why. And weird stuff continues to happen. I can't really go into more without spoiling it.
No,
so.
don't, because a lot of people,
Don't
weirdly enough, can't get access to this film.
Oh yeah, because Netflix.
Not necessarily Netflix. They're holding ransom of the DVD for some reason. I don't know what's
Really?
going on. Yeah,
Oh,
there is no. I don't mean to be go on a tangent, but there seems to be no UK specific release for this film.
Wow, that's fucked.
The only way you're going to be able to get a DVD Blu-ray copy of this is if you buy the American version.
Fuck that.
So they're making it even harder for people to watch this film.
Number 6 is Mute, which is the third Man Gets Revenge film.
Oh my god.
I told you there's 5 of them on my list. There's 5. Essentially in Mute, an Amish mute man tries to get revenge on someone that has kidnapped his girlfriend, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Or it's a daughter. I can't remember because it's been a while. But there's 2 aspects around that. He is dating someone and there's a child involved.
Okay.
But he's not dating the child, just to be specific.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And essentially it's a very good look at technology in people's lives.
Okay.
Specifically with him being an Amish character. And there's a great shot early on that shows simple fields and people around, and it just cuts straight to a city. And it's a very good, like, change of pace.
Okay.
That I don't think's getting enough analysis. Number 5 is How to Talk to Girls at Parties, the oddly named 70s style punk film, which is very surreal at points and extremely heartfelt and critical of authority.
Okay.
Definitely worth watching, and don't look at the poster.
Because it's awful.
It's just 2 characters like looking at each other like lovingly.
It looks like your typical comedy love rubbish.
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough.
Number 4, which is the 4th Man Gets Revenge film.
I love this.
This one is Mandy, the most metal film of 2018.
Okay.
Yes.
In which Nicolas Cage gets revenge on this weird cult after something happens to his wife. I won't spoil.
Okay.
And God, it goes into some psychedelic places with some major criticism of, let's say, people not being comfortable with their identity and using religion and or cults to control. It's great, and again, this one's quite grotesque in places.
Okay.
Especially with the biker characters.
Yeah.
So, little warning there. Number 3, which is my last film of the Man Gets Revenge quintology, I'll say. This one is You Were Never Really Here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's Joaquin Phoenix getting revenge after he's essentially sent to assassinate someone and sees some bad things happening, specifically with a kind of brothel in which there are underage children.
Oh.
Yes. And it essentially kind of examines the trauma of both of the characters in relation to the world.
Okay.
It also has the best sound design of any film this year. It is fucking amazing. There's a constant kind of hum of ambient sound. It's great. I love it. And Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic in this film.
As usual.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably one of the best actors of the modern day.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the Taiwanese movie The Great Buddha Plus.
Okay.
It's essentially all in black and white about these 2 middle-aged but lower-class men called Belly Button and Pickle. And they're essentially living their lives vicariously by watching the dashcam footage of their rich boss.
Okay.
And it is kind of darkly comic, but also sincerely heartfelt and incredibly sad. And even just telling my mum about this, she almost cried.
Oh,
so,
wow, okay.
Yeah. It's also probably got one of the best endings of any film this year.
Okay.
It's ridiculously good, and I hope people find out about this. I actually tweeted about it, and the Twitter page that distributes it actually ended up liking and sharing my tweet about it.
Awesome.
Which is brilliant. So, yeah. And my last, number 1 film, which I was shocked that I liked, because I usually don't like this director.
Venom.
No. If it was Venom, that'd be surprising.
That would be surprising.
It's The House That Jack Built by Lars von Trier.
Oh my god.
I know.
What? You hate that guy.
That's the thing. I've only seen Dogville, and I didn't like it at all. I mean, I didn't like Dogville or Dogtooth, so yeah.
Okay.
Different directors.
What about Nymphomaniac?
I still haven't seen that, despite I think it's still being on Netflix.
You need to watch that then.
Yeah. But this essentially follows a serial killer as he's telling of 5 kills he made out of his 60 plus kills to Virgil from Dante's Divine Comedy.
Okay.
And it is, again, darkly comic. I have quite a few of those on this. Mixed in with some very weird meditations and debates on the nature of violence in art. It also doesn't just use its film, it uses music, sound, and even stock images and video to tell its story.
Okay.
It's very strange in that aspect and amazing. It's probably on my top films in forever now.
Do you know it's technically a biopic of the director?
Kind of, because there are actual bits of his own films in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been described as like it's been described as a few things from what I've heard. It's been described as a bit of a fuck you film.
Yes.
And a bit of a look how good I am film in certain aspects. So I'm kind of very surprised that you would like that film and the director, and given those themes that I was aware of about it. So I'm like super surprised, honestly.
And the ending, it definitely has one of those that's kind of funny endings. Like, the rest of it isn't even played that comedic, but that ending is played perfectly. It's like a punchline to the film. It's fantastic. And the song at the end as well. So, yeah, that's my top film.
Fair enough. Al, it's up to you next for films.
Okay, I'm not sure what list I should start with first, so I go with worst and most disappointing. I put that in the same kind of list, and then I just go to honourable and then best.
Yeah, if you want to. Do whatever order you kind of want to, yeah. It's up to you.
So, I put worst and most disappointing in the same list, because I really don't have that much to say. But first I'm going to start off with the film Superfly. It's the remake of the original 1972 film.
Okay.
I thought from the trailer I thought it was going to be a good film.
Al, can you come a bit closer to the mic for us?
Yeah, sure. So from the actual, from the trailer, I thought, it was going to be a good film. Went to go see it. It literally felt like I went to go watch an episode of Empire at the cinema.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Shots fired at Empire.
I just thought, okay. There's only like one bit I could say I liked about the film, and that was actually the main character. I actually liked how the actual actor played the character. He did it a very good job. But other than that, I don't think there's actually anything else I like about the film.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just...
And you told me about this, and I was shocked that they even remade Superfly.
Yeah,
I was like...
this is the first I heard of it.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. It wasn't really advertised that much, actually. Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. And then the second would be The Predator. I mentioned this in podcast 99. I'm just disappointed. I was just disappointed, man. Actor from the original film and just didn't do a good job at actually making the film. I just thought, it hurts. It's just to the whole point. I don't even know if I should say it, because it feels like if I say it, I feel like I'm spoiling it.
I don't think anyone cares.
But basically, it's like the main threat didn't even have enough screen time.
Yeah.
It's literally like...
Wait, so you're trying to say that predators are in this film?
Oh, shocked.
I don't even know anymore. Was there? I don't even know.
And that like super predator.
Yeah. God, I just thought, right, okay. This is actually boring. Let me just go watch the original one again.
Yeah, exactly. That was how I thought.
Yeah, I'll just go watch the original at home. That's fine. Like, Okay, now I'll go into the honourable mentions. So I'll start from 5 and then go to 1. So
yep.
I haven't put this in a like most favourite, so it's just any order.
That's fine.
Yeah. So number 5 is Deadpool 2. I actually wasn't originally going to go watch this film, but I went to go see it with my boyfriend. He wanted to go see it, and I actually really enjoyed it. I actually liked it more than the first one.
Oh,
I felt like it had more story to it, more emotions put into it. So I definitely say, definitely enjoyable, very funny, definite. Number 4 would be Incredibles 2. Waited a long time for the damn film.
Yeah.
25 years.
Yeah. Could say that.
Did my waiting.
And to be honest, I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but it did do its job as a sequel. I definitely think,
I think a lot of people were throwing shade at it for just being okay.
I think I threw some shade at it.
You did throw some shade at it, and I think we were kind of talking about that, but I think a lot of people were like more disappointed that it's okay, given how much a lot of people liked the first one. Well, the first one is great.
Okay, number 3, Jurassic World 2, is it Fallen Kingdom?
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I did actually enjoy this film. I know this film got a lot of hate. I actually enjoyed it. It felt like I could actually, when you sympathise with the actual animals, it's just one of them ones you just sympathise. But like I said about Predator, I felt like the main threat didn't have a lot of screen time, and it kind of that was the only letdown for me in that film, unfortunately. But moving on, number 2 is Equalizer 2.
Good place to put it.
I actually quite. I mean, I hadn't actually watched the first one, so I watched it backwards.
Yeah.
So I actually thought it was actually quite a good film, considering I hadn't watched it before.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I can't actually remember the plot, so I'm not gonna go into it. So but I did think it was a good film.
Yeah.
And number one, Avengers: Infinity War. I wasn't originally going to watch the film, but I ended up going to see it, and I actually really enjoy it. And all I got to say about it is Thanos. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. I actually really liked the ending.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
It was a good end.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And your favourites?
Yeah. So best. So basically, I'll just end. So, first I'll start off with okay, so 6. So number 6 is Johnny English Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
Very enjoyable film. I spoke about it on podcast 99, so you can hear my opinion on that. Number 5 is Mary and the Witchflower. That was
I missed this.
really, really good. It's so fun.
I really wanted to see this.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into the plot, so I'm going to just quickly breeze through this. Maquia When the Flower Blooms. That was a really good film.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, it was very emotional, I would say. I actually remember the plot for this one, so I can say the plot. So basically, it's about this certain species that basically don't make. How do I say it? They don't attach themselves to people because they don't want to grow that. How do I say that love for them? Because otherwise, when they lose that person, they don't feel a certain way for that person, basically, or pet or whatever. So they have that kind of rule.
They don't grow attachment.
Yeah, they don't grow that attachment, basically. So that's how their species are. But yeah, I thought it was going to be a sci-fi film, but it was actually like a really emotional film.
Wow.
It was good. I would recommend it. I would say go for it.
I'll check it out. What was it called?
Maquia When the Flower Blooms.
Okay.
It's coming out on DVD pretty soon.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend it. And then, oh gosh, what number am I on now? 3. Okay, number 3, Crazy Rich Asians. I thought, when I saw the trailer, I thought, okay, this was actually biased to me to think this, but I actually thought Superfly was going to do better than the Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, interesting.
And then actually, the irony was, I actually enjoyed Crazy Rich Asians more so than Superfly. So, that was naive on my behalf. But, actually, I thought I quite liked Crazy Rich Asians because actually you can kind of see the lifestyle that it is, and every culture can relate. When a couple's together and they're introducing the family, etc., and you kind of see if the family's going to take to that person or not. It kind of slice of life, really. Yeah, just you can just all relate to it. And then number 2 is Mirai. Mirai was amazing. I felt like slice of life again. That whole sibling rivalry type of thing. Newborn comes and the older one's jealous and it goes into the whole thing, but I don't want to spoil it. So
this was one I missed and I'm so sad.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to so badly.
I'll watch it when you get the chance, definitely.
I want to.
And number 1 is Black Panther. It was I think one of the first films I went to see this year, actually.
It was an early release.
Yeah.
I think Feb.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I think it was Feb. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I like the whole fact that they were kind of the whole. Well, I think like the whole black community kind of united together
in both good ways and bad ways, unfortunately.
But I liked how it kind of had like black excellence in it and everything, and I just felt like it did its job.
Also, like Killmonger and like Shuri are the best. They're too good. I love them so much.
And that's it for my end for films.
Now it's my time.
Yeah.
So for feature-length films, I've got something for everything. I'm going to do my honorable mentions really quickly because they were just films that I really did enjoy, just didn't make the cut. I had to make a slight change, so my top favorites is actually a 9 instead of a 10.
Okay.
So honorable mentions, Deadpool 2. I really did like this film. A lot of people gave it flack for, I don't know, whatever their expectations were, but I really liked it. I thought it was pretty funny. I like you mentioned, I like the fact there was a little bit more story because I think my major criticism of the first one was it kind of felt like things are happening, and this one actually had a bit of a story. Next, going to Avengers Infinity War. Really like this film. I love just how iconic it's come. I like how impactful it's come. I like how it's destroyed DC. I like how it's basically it blew my expectations because I thought this was going to be absolute trash. I thought they could not do it, and they exceeded 10 times in what they were going to do, and it definitely makes Marvel and what they're doing, and possibly what they even have planned next, very scary and very interesting. Next, I want to go Mary and the Witch's Flower. Really like this film. The only reason not making my top 10 is because it's still kind of hanging on a bit too much to the Studio Ghibli stuff, and I kind of wanted them to push a little bit more to do their own thing, own style, own direction. But other than that, fantastic ideas, excellently animated film, and it's definitely a good film that has a lot of next film potential. So it's definitely worth a watch, especially if you're an anime fan, especially if you're a Ghibli fan, and you're going, oh, I can't believe they're not making another film until the other one. Watch this. And final honorable mention is Johnny English Strikes Again. I really did like this film. As much as people want to hate it and diss it, and as much as silly it is, and it's maybe not the greatest film of all time, I still loved it.
Yeah.
It has some quality scenes in it. Yeah. I'm going to go with my favourite, starting with number 9, and that's going to be Early Man, coming from Aardman, and the stop-motion animated British film, which basically is a weird kind of prehistoric football film.
Yes.
Now, I don't really like football, but I really liked what they did. Some of the jokes were pretty great. I loved a lot of the voice acting. The animation was definitely a massive step up compared to some of their other films. No disrespect, I'm not saying it looks inferior, but some really great stuff. The only thing that really bothered me was a few uses of 3D CGI generated background, which didn't look quite great. And overall, really funny, really strong film. If you have kids, definitely let them see this film. Number 8, which I guess is probably going to piss some people off because given some of the other films I'm going to talk about, The Big Bad Fox and Other Tales.
Oh, yeah.
I had to put this film in my list. It was just so nice and so sweet. Basically, it's a weird animated anthology about a bunch of farmyard animals, and they're retelling certain stories within their life. And it's a beautifully animated, almost picture book-like film with... It's basically 3 mini stories. One about a pig, a duck. Was it a duck? Yeah, a pig, a duck, and a rabbit that have to basically deliver a baby. A fox wanting to essentially be the big bad fox, and a story revolving Christmas.
Okay.
It's a very short, very brief film, but it's absolutely wonderful and it's lovely. Like I think I said in the podcast last time, if you're sick of watching Frozen, get this film and stick it on for your kids because they will most likely like it.
Especially when Frozen 2 comes out. Pretend it doesn't and just give them this.
No, John. Frozen didn't come out. No, we're not singing again. Number 7 is going to Coco. Mama Coco. Really like this film. I was anticipating this film for a long time, and I'm glad it came out really well. Very heartfelt, very emotional. I really don't like musicals, but I really did like a lot of the songs and the ideas to do with like family and that respect and that honor and some other interesting issues regarding fame and legacy. And I do like how they definitely intertwine these ideas within the Mexican festival, the Day of the Dead, which I thought was fantastic. Very visually striking, very interesting as well. The villain reveal was weak, which is like a lot of them, but whatever. Number 6, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
I
watched this on a plane.
You told me.
Yeah, I watched this on a plane. Really, really strong film. I love this film. This is kind of like Woman Gets Revenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of, this is like the only Woman Gets Revenge film that came out in 2018.
There was Peppermint, but that was shit.
No, we're not talking about Peppermint. Really love this film. It's definitely a little bit more of like a character film, and it kind of has a little bit of a mystery kind of crime element, because the way certain stories evolve, like the main character who kind of portrays herself as this very almost like horrible old lady who's like, you know, I'm going to put these billboards up to really take down the police force. I didn't do anything about my daughter that got killed. And, you know, they really portray her and other sides as both the villain and the hero. And you get a very interesting character change throughout the film where you get this really just scummy antagonist character kind of bring it back to the end in such a wonderful way. And the ending is very interesting. How they actually end that film is fascinating.
I will say Frances McDormand, the old lady, she was perfect.
Oh,
in the
fantastic.
Film. Yeah.
One of the best performances of technically last year. Number 5, Thoroughbreds.
Yeah, I only got to see a bit of this. I didn't get to see the whole film.
Oh, no.
I know. Again, similar accident, like as what happened in the last 2 years happened to me.
That's bad. Thoroughbreds is a very twisted and dark and somewhat horrible film about 2 quotation mark friends who decide they want to kill someone. And the way their friendship kind of plays out is very interesting, because you can kind of tell they're not friends, but they kind of have this idea, and the way the story plays out, because one of the girls is extremely weird. Very overtly weird, and there's a fantastic I love the opening shot of this film where you have her come in, and she's kind of looking around, just kind of expecting anything. She's been told to stay there, but she's just doing it anyway. And there's a great shot where she's looking at something, she looks in the mirror, smiles, and then continues walking around.
That was such a creepy thing.
It definitely kind of brings her character up. And I love the other actress. I completely forget her name right now. She was in The Witch.
Yes.
And what's the other good film I like that she was in? But she's been in consistently some of my best films of the last few years.
Is it not her that's in Playmobil thing?
She might be.
Yeah, because it looked like her.
One of them might be in the Playmobil film. So from Thoroughbreds to Playmobil, she's hitting it she's hitting all the stuff. But I loved how ominous this film was.
Yes.
And it had this very odd sound design and soundtrack where it was very paranoia inducing for all the time. There's a very consistent sound that kind of plays throughout the track, and there are moments where the shot really just lingers, particularly the end. The ending of this film is it's rough. Because they just hold on this shot as something happens, and you don't know what the hell was going to happen, which is really great. And there are some very interesting lines and ideas that are presented in this film, and I think it's unfortunately a very relatable film about killing someone you don't like. Yeah. Also, Antoine Yelchin is in it as well. This is his last film.
Final performance from the late actor.
Yes, who passed away last year. Some people might more know him as Scotty from the more modern. Was it Scotty he was in Star Trek?
I can never remember the Russian character's name.
He was Chekhov. Yes, he's more the modern Chekhov in the Star Trek films. So that's them. Number 4 is going to Mandy. Yes. Absolutely love this film as a completely over the top, crazy Nicolas Cage, bizarre grindhouse horror reference to Eraserhead, Pinhead, all that craziness. It was a fantastic film, and visually probably one of the most interesting films in a long time. I don't think anyone is going to not say that this isn't an interesting watch. Absolutely loved what they did with some of the effects and the visuals and the storyline and Nicolas Cage's performance. Everything, absolutely loved it.
We both had Mandy at number 4, which is quite amusing.
Yeah, it is. Number 3, Isle of Dogs. Fantastic film. I absolutely loved this film. I loved a lot of the ideas presented and a lot of the more although some people, along with other things, didn't like the political angle. I like the political and some of the ideologies with the film, and some of the kind of conspiracy and the ideas within the inner workings of higher powers and lower powers, and it just honestly being about this kid wants to find his dog. Yeah. And I love that it was in the middle of all this kinds of stuff, and I love the way Wes Anderson presented a lot of these aspects, the way he presented the island, the way he presented the higher-ups in this world. I love the Citizen Kane, the very obvious Citizen Kane reference, which was perfect. I also like the underlining folklore kind of reintroducing into the modern day age, which was fantastic. Cannot say enough good things about this. Number 2 is going to Mirai of the Future. Okay. Very similar to Isle of Dogs. I like that it was just such a small story. Yeah. I like that it wasn't like, we gotta save the world or anything like that. It was a story about a boy and his younger sister, and kind of getting a perspective on certain things from other people's perspectives. And I love the way they did that in terms of time travel elements, and very comedic film. It was almost a comedy to some extent. Which really caught me off guard, but they have some fantastic comedically paced and timed moments, and I loved some very odd lines. And I do love, not to spoil anything, I do like their depictions of certain aspects of time, particularly the end, which I thought was a very chilling and odd example of what might come to be, which I absolutely loved. And number 1 is going to American Animals. Nice. I thought this film was perfect in pretty much every aspect. Not to say anything else on my top 10 wasn't. Yeah. But I think I cannot find a single issue where I was like, no, this film was perfect, down from the acting to the pacing to the editing to the performances, even to the costume design.
Oh, there's some great bits.
It's almost a paranoia-inducing film in itself, because it really tries to mess with you and freak you out in a very, like you said, biopic way, where you don't know what's happening, and the film intentionally knows you're going to question it and then brings you more questions to question the film. And I loved how this was all played out in a heist film.
Yes.
And like you said, incredibly nerve-wracking film. Like when I watched this in the cinema, no one was making a sound. Like
Perfect.
everyone was like freaking out. But I absolutely loved this film, and that's why I wanted to put it at the top 10. I cannot wait to watch it again, just to kind of dig in and see if there was any other things I missed that may have been hidden in the background, so to say. Worst, there's only one film I watched which I consider to be bad, and that was The Open House.
I've never heard of this.
This is a Netflix film that released in 2018, and it's really bad. If you've seen a film, you've seen this film.
Oh wow!
Oh wow! Okay.
It is bad. I tell you how this film is so bad that me and Recess watched this film. He fell asleep on my bed. And the only reason I didn't fall asleep was because he was sleeping on my bed.
Oh, that's perfect.
This film is one of the most generic, predictable horror films I have seen in such a long time. And it doesn't even help that the main character from 13 Reasons is in it.
Oh, no.
Awful show. Absolutely horrible. It makes absolutely no sense, this film. And it's just incredibly plainly shot, and it's boring. It fails in every aspect. Simply for me. And most disappointing film, which is going to upset pretty much everyone, is going to be Black Panther.
Okay.
I thought this film...
Hard cut?
I have tried to watch this film twice, and I honestly can't finish it.
Wow.
I've watched it once, I think, and I tried to watch it again. I couldn't do it. I think it's just so boring. I can't do it. I can't do it. I mean, it's so bad, and I think the way immediately you say you don't like Black Panther and you're called a racist, I think is incredibly wrong, because it's my opinion.
The problem is I've only ever heard that online, and most of the time it's in a joke way.
People have said that offline, I guess to say.
Yeah, a lot of people might.
I really didn't like this film. There are elements I liked. I thought the acting was fantastic, and I thought some of the costume design was good, but I honestly feel like it was a bit of a waste. They didn't... I as much as I like Michael B. Jordan's character, I kind of feel Andy Serkis's character was way more interesting.
I did like Andy Serkis's character. I think, like, in the review I did, I actually called him, like, a culture thief, which I thought was perfect.
He basically is a culture thief.
Which worked so well.
And I think he would have been a bit more interesting given some of the ideas, but...
I did like Michael B. Jordan, though.
No, I'm not saying his acting isn't good or anything.
Yeah.
I just thought his character was just, like, very generic.
I liked Killmonger a lot.
Is that what he's called?
Yeah, Killmonger. Eric Killmonger.
Oh, I was just calling him, like, Michael B. Jordan.
Fair enough.
Damn, Michael B. Jordan's not really a nice character, is he? Is this what he's going to be like in Creed 2?
Oh, I do want to watch
that. That's why it's not worse. It's most disappointing.
Okay.
Oh, dear. Does anyone have anything for short films?
I feel like I watched something, but I can't remember it. 'Cause, again, my whole list's got messed up.
Nothing for me.
So, we're moving on to games.
Okay. Best games.
Games. Something we should talk more about, but we tend not to, because the landscape of gaming is a bit strange.
So, on my worst games of 2018...
Do you need a moment, Ace?
Yeah. My worst game of 2018 is God of War. PS4 2018, God of War 4. It's such a nothing game, and all it is its narrative, which could have been told in any other medium besides game and be done more effectively.
Right, okay.
I found its gameplay incredibly lackluster, and yeah, it was really bad.
Oh, really? Okay. I don't really like God of War anyway myself, but...
That's me. I don't even like the old ones. I just don't like this either.
I just don't like Kratos. He's just a douchebag.
And he had to invade Shovel Knight? What a prick. Yeah, it's not good. Okay. On to my honourable mentions, because I've got no disappointments.
Yeah!
First, number 10 is Marvel's Spider-Man.
Okay.
Again, I talked about this before on the podcast. I enjoyed it. It didn't really feel like it brought anything new to the table as far as Spider-Man games go, but its narrative was good, and it did feel good to play. Specifically, its action's been remodeled and is better, but some of the enemies, especially in the DLC, are just awful.
Okay.
And are not good, especially with the environments you battle them in.
Okay.
But the actual main game is pretty good. So
That's good to hear.
Number 9, and this is a weird one because I didn't think I'd ever pick up one of these games again, is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Okay.
It's moved from its classic stealth gameplay, which was actually pretty cool, into a more open action, which is alright, and it's got a breadth of systems and mechanics, but it doesn't go nearly in depth with them to be remarkable enough. Like, it takes the let's say Nemesis system from Middle Earth, but it turns it really shallow as mercenaries, which it was fun, but didn't do anything fresh with it.
Okay.
It's got the wanted bounty system from Rockstar Games, which doesn't do too much with it, and it's far too easy to get no bounty.
Oh, okay.
And then it's got the kind of web of intrigue from Prototype, but it's much smaller but more narrative focused, which works, but it's got too much. That's the issue. Its quantity exceeds itself, so you end up feeling really tired when you finished. But it was still enjoyable for what it was, and actually really good aesthetically. Probably one of the more beautiful landscapes in video games, especially how it works, not just aesthetically, but mechanically as you traverse it.
Okay.
So, number 8, and this week, because I don't like walking simulators, this is the Paynes Creek Killings, which was essentially an investigative walking simulator where you have to go around this abandoned English town and find out who murdered this person. And you can get it wrong. And the game can just end. You can literally just get in your car and leave before you even start the game properly. So you leave when you think you're done. But if you get all the way through, you're going to be in for something you wouldn't think. It kind of alters the gameplay, and that's just to let people know in case they might jump, like I've seen people do. And it's great because you can actually, instead of you have to go here now, you literally have to figure it out yourself. You have to find keys yourself to open doors, take photographs yourself to remind yourself. Surprisingly good. I was shocked at a good detective game. They don't come often.
Okay.
Number 8?
No, 7.
7 is Into the Breach, the roguelike from the creators of FTL.
Okay.
This one essentially dealing with mechs against kaiju, with it still being turn-based, but this time you see where they're going to move and what they're going to do, and you have to prevent them from destroying the city. It is really good, and it's got that addictive roguelike quality of FTL for what made it so popular. And in some aspects, I like it a bit more. I know everyone loves FTL, but Into a Breach has a bit more to it for me in some aspects. Number 6, and this might surprise people, it's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
That's not surprising.
Well, that it's not on a favourites or number 1.
Not really.
Incredibly good. The actual gameplay is even better than I thought they could make it.
Okay.
And the sheer quality of characters and everything, the quantity of it is ridiculous. But it still hasn't matched Brawl's Subspace Emissary, which makes that game the best of the bunch. Because the charm of its side-scrolling and platforming is what made Subspace Emissary so good to me. Whereas this, you've got a map that you go around, but you don't have that freedom of movement.
Oh, alright.
So that's my biggest issue. Number 4 is Vigilantes, which was an indie XCOM-like, and that's not the first time you're going to hear XCOM-like in this, where you are a vigilante taking out crime, specifically a rogue military group, a cult, and a gang.
Okay.
And just like XCOM, you've got a group find other people to work on your side. Mm-hmm. You literally have to investigate areas to find out if there's crime there in the first place. And the biggest issue is aesthetically it's mixed and jumbled, but it's a very indie game, and it's understandable why. If you like XCOM, definitely try Vigilantes. Number 3 is The Missing J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories, which is a incredibly great, let's say, cinematic platformer. Is that what they're called?
Maybe.
Yeah, which essentially uses its mechanic of hurting yourself in order to live, which is very odd and thematically fascinating. And it goes to some incredibly interesting places with it. And Swery 65's games are always good, so you've got to try them out. Give the man love, damn it. Number 2 is Ghost of a Tale, which is the incredible, adorable action RPG where you play as a little anthropomorphic mouse inside a massive castle that you're trying to escape. Starting from the dungeon, and it's filled with giant rats, snakes that will all try and kill you, and you can't fight back. You can stealth your way through, though.
Oh.
It is adorable because the mouse, your main character, is the most cutest animated thing I've ever seen in my life. Just the way his little tail wiggles and how he walks, perfect. The biggest issue is its finale. Not only the final boss, but thematically the narrative. It just kind of goes, oh yeah, now we're doing this, and it's like, oh, that's not good.
Sequel bait?
No, it's more, it just, instead of being this more quiet, lone story, it's now like, it's the fate of the world.
Oh, okay.
Which really sucked, and I didn't like.
Oh, okay.
But it's still worth playing.
Okay.
And number 1 for my honourable mentions is Mutant Year Zero, which is a kind of Fallout XCOM-like game where you are a anthropomorphic pig and duck exploring the post-apocalypse.
Okay.
And it's incredibly fascinating, obviously for its more asymmetric gameplay, which doesn't happen too often. Mm-hmm. But how they refer to old world relics like a boombox, which is one of the earliest items you can find, and they're like, be careful, there's a reason it's called a boombox. If you press that red button, it's going to explode. Which is amazing, because they don't know what the old world was like. Mm-hmm. Mm. And that kind of storytelling is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
If you like classic RPGs, definitely go for this.
Alright.
And now on to my actual top 10. Mm-hmm. Starting with Subnautica, I believe it's described as a Minecraft-like, but underwater.
Okay.
You're building and crafting and exploring, but this one does have more of a central narrative. An understanding of why you were brought here and what you're trying to do. And it's got such nice movement, especially for a game that's set underwater you'd think would suck. Oh. But it's so well done.
Okay.
And some of the stuff you can build, you'd be surprised at. Number 9 is Frostpunk. There are so many indie games on this because the mainstream was not that good for me.
Fair enough.
Frostpunk, which is a city survival simulator in the 19th century.
Okay.
Where you have to try and keep the last civilization of humanity alive. This is from sending people out to get coal, enacting labour laws, and deciding whether you should add sawdust to food in order to keep people full, instead of running out of rations. It is immensely dark and questions your morality.
Oh.
Which, if you know the previous game, This War of Mine, that's exactly what you expect.
Okay.
Number 8. Monster Hunter World.
Yay!
One that everyone knows. Yeah, fantastic. Again, I know the series itself came before it, but as many people say, it's like Dark Souls. But really great, fascinating combat, and just how open it is despite its limits, like the time, etc. And at first, getting to grips with all of the mechanics and even the combat was odd, but I got into it and I started feeling it. And I'm very happy I finally got into the series.
Good.
That's good.
I'm really happy that you actually liked it, because I knew it was a game series you would enjoy.
Yeah, and I made the most adorable Palico.
Wait, is this the first Monster Hunter game you've played?
Properly.
Oh, okay.
I played one on PSP years ago when I was bad at games, and I played it for like 10 minutes. I was like, nah. I was a chump.
At least you're honest.
Exactly. Number 7, the game that failed the most commercially, and I don't think anyone even talked about or even knows came out, being Hitman 2.
No.
Yeah?
No, I know Hitman 2.
So many
behind with games, sorry.
Yeah. No, honestly, so many people just forgot it came out, and just like the last one, or like the Hitman game, it did so poorly commercially, which is ridiculous because they're such good games.
You need to subscribe to some of the people I'm subscribing. Most of them are playing Hitman 2.
Only 2 of the people I'm subscribed to out of 100 are talked about it, and I was like, oh, okay. And one of them did the best video ever on it, which literally came out last week. So, and And essentially, it's an improved version of the previous Hitman.
Okay.
With even the levels from the previous game, if you own that one. So, which I do, so that was great to have. And even how it's mechanically utilising crowds is better. And, oh my god, all the places are so packed with people. It's the perfect for stealth, social stealth simulators. And it's got the comical factor that everyone loves. I still wish it doesn't have this always online bullshit and the very minimal of, hey, this mission is here, you can only do it now.
Yeah, the marked ones, is that what it's called?
Yeah, and I hate those things, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the stuff that stops people playing it.
Yeah, that's understandable. Why would you have a timed DLC mission that will never be played again once you do it? It's ridiculous.
Exactly, especially when you like in the first game, getting to assassinate Gary Busey.
Yeah, that's great.
Exactly, such good things. Who was it in the new one?
What's the guy?
Was it Jack Bauer?
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean. I almost said Jack Bauer, which was I forget. He's also in Lost Boys. Keith Sutherland.
Oh,
yeah, I thought it was him for a second. Number 6, which again an indie one, being The Friends of Ringo Ishikawa. It's essentially a side-scrolling beat-em-up life sim.
Okay.
Heavily inspired by a mixture of Persona and Yakuza.
Okay.
Which, you're essentially a delinquent part of a school gang, and you're given 1 year to turn your life around. And you just do whatever the fuck you want. You you can go to school, or you can miss it, you can get into fights, you can just go to the gym. Literally, and if you get into a fight and lose, you literally skip to the next day. But one of the things that I love so much is that there are 2 buttons in the game that are basically pointless, and they're only made for you to be a delinquent and to waste time. And considering the game's on a timer, one of those is the delinquent button, which makes you walk slow with your hands in your pockets, head down, and you're just like lazing around. And the other is to get a cigarette and start smoking. Your character's just wasting time for no reason. It adds nothing to the game, and it's just perfectly shows how being a delinquent is a waste of time. I loved it. And I hope more people play it. It's only like £8 or something on Steam, so
hope it gets a bigger release somewhere. I'd like to see Switch pick it up somewhere.
It would work perfectly on the Switch.
Yeah.
Especially for that stop and start play.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Number 5, Return of the Obra Dinn. Being the I forget how to announce it. The weird graphical investigative game. Essentially, you're on a ship, being a kind of old-fashioned, almost piratey ship.
Yeah.
Finding out what happened to all the crew, using your time travel watch to see the last moment of someone's death.
Ooh.
In order to find out, and you literally have to write in a journal of who they are, what happened, etc., to try and uncover what happened.
Yeah.
It is beautiful, and again, a really good detective game. It's weird that there were 2 in 1 year. That shocked me. Number 4, the game everyone hated and I loved, We Happy Few, which finally came out.
I forgot about that.
Yep. I think everyone did. And it's essentially a 1960s British dystopian survival sim.
Okay.
Where you have to take the happy drug in order to appear happy to everyone, where you forget your memories.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a weird and fascinating exploration of trying to forget the past in order to present everything as good and jolly. I love it, and I am shocked that no one's talking about it. It's...
Yeah, people really forgot about this game. I really liked it, and I didn't put it anywhere on honorable mentions because I didn't fully see too much of it.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I love so much about the, let's say, memory loss mechanic. If you've played the game before and you start a new game, the map is procedurally generated. It's almost like you've forgotten everything, which is mechanically utilising memory loss. And I think that's perfect.
That's a really nice touch.
Yeah. Number 3 is Vampire, or Vampire, however you want to pronounce it, which is the 1880s vampire RPG by Don't Nod, who previously did Remember Me and Life is Strange.
Okay.
It's a great track record.
Yeah, it's a very weird one. But essentially you're a doctor during the Spanish flu in which you become a vampire, and you kind of want to find out who turned you. But in amongst this is a system I love called the Pillars of Community, where different like sections of London have different people at the centre of their community.
Yeah.
And how you deal with them can affect everyone within that area.
Oh, okay.
And even like individual people, if you affect them, you might affect their boyfriend or their mother.
Oh, right.
So
yeah.
someone stole something or killed someone, you know, what are you going to do if you do something to them? It's going to affect that other person.
Right.
And it's fascinating that no one's thought of something like that before.
No. In the game especially.
Exactly. And it even uses its difficulty in combat to make you think, if I drink someone's blood, you know, I could get stronger. So again, questioning your morality. It's pretty wonderful in that way. Number 2, Phantom Doctrine, which is my another XCOM-like, this time 1960s spy style, where you're literally uncovering a conspiracy, kidnapping other agents, brainwashing them, or even turning them into sleeper agents. And it's all from a very stealth perspective.
Okay.
And I got so addicted to this that I think I played it for 70-ish hours when it first came out. And I think I didn't message you until I finished it, Raccoon. Yeah. And I was just like,
I thought he was dead.
Exactly. So it was so good, and they've added a free Halloween update, which was fascinating. Just like some skins and stuff, which was really good. And even how you put together stuff to investigate locations is you literally have a clue board. Right. You have to put the clues together to match them up. To find out where you need to go next. It was great. And number 1, best game of the year for me, and one of the best of its series, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I love this game. It was adorable, and it did everything that good Pokemon games should do.
That's good.
And that is have Pokemon walk around with you.
Oh, yeah.
Or ride on them.
Exactly. Only a few Pokemon games do this.
Yeah.
Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Yellow, which are the other best games in the series.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's adorable. It's not difficult. I mean, very few Pokemon games are. But it removes so much tedium that a lot of Pokemon games have. And I'm so happy, and even graphically, it's adorable, and I love it. And how some Pokemon move is hilarious. Very recommended, and I'm even more excited for the next Pokemon game on the Switch.
Alright.
Yeah.
So that moves on to you now, Al.
Nothing.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because I haven't got like PS4 or anything, so I'm really
fine.
behind.
There was one game I was going to play, but I ran out of time, so I wasn't able to include it on my list. So I just have some honorable mentions of games which I saw this year, which I really liked for various reasons. The first one I'll talk about is Celeste.
Yes.
Really fun platformer. Very difficult-ish platformer game, which I thought was pretty cool. Hitman 2, like you already mentioned, I didn't like the first newer Hitman game. I thought it was just rubbish.
Wow.
But this one, I'm really liking a lot of the bigger open-world stuff. I'm really liking its more... how should I put it? It's more experimental take on things, and it's rewarding of replay value. I think is great. Monster Hunter World, I did see a lot of gameplay of that, although I wasn't quite able to fully understand a lot of what I was seeing. Really enjoyed it. A Way Out, probably one of the better stories within a game for this for the most part. Really enjoyed that, and that was definitely a couch co-op game.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitively. Dragon Ball Fighter Z, fantastically animated and tightly constructed game, even for someone like me who doesn't care as much about Dragon Ball Z as I'd imagine the people playing Dragon Ball Z. So really cool with that. Another fighting game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Really like the attention to detail, the cast, the animation, the fact that they really lived up to the title Ultimate with this game, and I really appreciate that. Spyro Reignited Trilogy, I really liked what they did. Coming from the people who did Madagascar 2.
Yeah, I know. I found out about that. I was shocked.
Really good take. Not the most perfect reimagining of the game, but I think the animation, the voice cast, just the general overall of pretty much improving it. But at the same time, the reason I'm also a big fan is they've left a lot of they haven't really changed too much. Yeah. It seems like a very safe, we're going to remake it to the T, so that mission you didn't like in the game is still there, and you will not like it here.
And cool thing, some of the things from later games you can actually do in the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
I thought that was great.
I do like, and I do like a lot. One thing I do like is the animation in this game.
It's
I
beautiful.
Absolutely love and you can kind of tell someone was really putting in some serious work, because if you see, although it is kind of hard to see from Spyro's perspective, if you see the way he runs and charges, it's extremely cat-like.
turn the camera to the side a little bit and just start pushing forward, it's adorable.
Well, I haven't had that control, obviously. But just looking at it, the way he jumps is exactly like a cat. The way he starts running is exactly like a cat, because that's basically what he was based on.
How he lands.
Yeah, how he lands, he tucks his hands into land and kind of does this like dive thing, which everyone can see at home on this podcast, me doing. Which I absolutely loved, and I give them massive props for that. Let's see what else Sony's bandwagon of let's remake this. I think Medieval is next, so we'll see. Medieval is next. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, the most adorable thing I've seen this year. I love that it's basically a love letter to Pokemon, and hopefully it will really reignite Pokemon once again for a newer generation. There is a video where someone managed to get every single Pokemon and showed how they interacted with you riding.
That's amazing.
And it is amazing to see the different variations, like the was it Krabby does walk sideways. All the ghost Pokemon, you float on them,
Perfect.
And there's a few others where you kind of just on their side. I think Snorlax. I know someone rolls.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Snorlax. I know
Voltorb,
someone.
Electrode.
Yeah, they roll. Yeah. They just roll behind you, which is hilarious. And a few other Pokemon like Squirtle that just like waddles and stuff like that.
It's like a gecko.
Basically. I absolutely love a lot of the details, and it does kind of fit into the Pokemon theme where I have my big Pokemon and my little Pikachu on my shoulder right here, or on my hat, or something like that. Really love that. Ghost of a Tale, I wanted to give a shout out as well. Really fantastically small, indie-ish developed game, which I really need to watch more, because I kind of just marvel at this like Red Wall, Secret of Nim-esque kind of inspired game. And the last one I want to talk about, which might be a technicality for some people, is Deltarune. This is Toby Fox, is the guy who made Undertale's next maybe game, although I think it's kind of a troll.
I think it's kind of a side quill, like, because he did say it's part 1 of like 2, I think.
I think that's a lie.
Okay. Very
personally
possible.
I think, given my opinions, I think that's actually a lie.
I
think this is a complete piss take of the fandom and everything Undertale stands for.
Fascinating.
Which would be interesting, but what it is, I like. Quickly want to run down some of my worst. These are games I didn't like. Number 3, I guess I would say God of War 4. I did not like this game. I thought it was just rubbish. Simply, I cannot talk more enough. Same with my number 2, Spider-Man, Marvel, PS4, 2018. This was vanilla as hell. This was basic. They haven't really done anything with Spider-Man. There's nothing new here. Peter Parker looks like a goblin.
I still agree.
And I generally didn't find the story that engaging at all. I am not disregarding the details and some of the effort that went into the animation and some of the systems and some of the actual heart and soul that went into it. I'm just saying that it is not the Jesus Christ of video gaming as some people seem to think it is. And number 1, The Impatient. This was a VR game that's basically the prequel to the fantastic supermassive game Until Dawn that essentially tries to explain that stuff. If you haven't seen Until Dawn, do not watch The Impatient, because it will essentially spoil it. Watch a playthrough of Until Dawn, because it's basically a horror film movie. If you want to see it or play it.
If you have a PS4, play it, because it's exclusive.
But this game was absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
It just didn't do anything. It was just boo, jump scare, rubbish. You know, it has probably one of the worst endings to a game I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. I did actually remember one thing that was this most confusing, stupidest game of 2018.
Okay.
The Quiet Man.
Oh.
The brawler that's trying to be super smart, and like the character's I think it's deaf or mute, so the audio's all quiet, and it's like, and it's so horrible because they don't even get the subtitles right.
Ooh.
And they just disappear at points.
That's bad.
And you're basically playing the game for maybe 40 minutes, and the rest of it is like video, and it's live acting, and it's bad acting. So
I've been meaning to get to this game.
It's not good, and it's hilarious because it's not good. So watch some videos, it's funny as fuck.
Oh dear. Okay, so we had to take a quick break because my room is turning into a oven. So if you do hear sirens and craziness and ambient sounds, that is a window open. We're just going to let you know that we're moving on to television, technically one of our second to last-ish categories, which have quite a few categories in that. And we're going to go with Ace, of course, to go through all of his. And the first section is going to be anime.
So I kind of grouped all my things together, so I don't have it separated.
That's fine. That's fine.
Honourable mentions. I'm going to start with some things that haven't finished yet.
Yeah.
Particularly being Gegege no Kitaro, the anime series for mostly children in Japan, but it's very good at talking about Japanese culture and using, for example, mythological creatures in modern context.
Okay.
A very obvious one being kappas used in the workplace and how they're fed, and essentially talking about capitalism through kappas, which is quite a funny pun. And it's incredibly good, and I hope more children watch this, and if it got a dub, which I doubt, it would be perfect for American or English speaking children.
I doubt it will. Unfortunately, Gigigi is too obscure.
Exactly. Number 9 being JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Wind, which is fantastic.
Oh, yes.
And I've already talked about it on the podcast before. Brilliant animation and perfectly absurd in that JoJo way. Number 8 being Rascal Does Not Dream of Baniga Senpai, which is the most odd title of this.
Yeah.
Essentially being a weird kind of philosophical discussion of growing up in a way.
Puberty syndrome, as they refer to it, in with a few scientific explanations, maybe.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love the dialogue in this and the chemistry between characters and how the romance is handled.
Okay.
It feels like an actual relationship rather than something that other shows do.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Number 7 is Disenchantment, the series by Matt Groening for Netflix, being very similar to Simpsons Futurama, but this time in medieval fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer for it, yeah.
Which, again, brilliant style and very funny, perfect characters, specifically the elf character. He was great. Number 6, is American Vandal Season 2, which I think is better than the original season and even more absurd at points. I absolutely loved the saga of the turd burglar. It was fantastic. Number 5 is Tokyo Vampire Hotel, the Japanese live-action show.
Okay.
A series that confused me.
Yes, essentially about a hotel that is a vampire, but because it's grown out of a woman who's in the basement.
Oh, right.
And the hotel is essentially her.
Oh.
And she has her vampires kidnap people to bring them into her hotel.
Oh, right.
Especially as some sort of post-apocalypse is happening. And there's a kind of gang war between 2 different vampire clans.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are some really cool Romanian actors in there as well.
Interesting.
Which, specifically they're part of the Dracula clan, which makes sense.
It would be, yeah. What's the...
It's number 4, which is Sacha Baron Cohen's Who is America? Season 1, which was laugh out loud hilarious, and it really showed how stupid certain right-wing people are. That was subtle.
I can I quickly say I am fine. It's taking me so long to get through this series. The reason it's taking me so long to get through the series is I find it so comedically frustrating that I almost cannot watch it.
I understand.
Because I'm literally looking at these things and these ideas and these things that people are saying, and I'm just having a breakdown. To some extent, because I'm like, what the hell? The whole thing with that one guy who's now retired with the whole homosexuality, homosexuals trying to get him. Oh my god, it's rough.
Did you get to the Joe Biden part?
Maybe.
With the water torture?
No.
No, okay.
No.
That's one to look forward to.
Okay.
Number 3 is Kokoku, which was an anime about not necessarily time travel, but time stopping.
Okay.
Where you can go around and interact with the world, but as soon as you try to interact with a living person, these almost time gods will kill you.
Oh, so it's like the Langoliers.
Kind of, but good.
Yeah.
So I absolutely loved it. It's perfectly paced and sometimes very dark and very sad. There's one episode in particular which has such a melancholic feeling. It's amazing. Number 2 is The Good Place, specifically season 2, which is finished, and season 3 that's going on now. Essentially a comedy about people dying and going to heaven, known as The Good Place.
Right, okay.
And it raises philosophical debates on free will and the nature of humanity.
Right.
Which is great for a comedy. I actually only heard of the show through Luke Skywalker on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which, perfect. Thank you so much for that recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And number 1 for honourable mentions is Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency Season 2, which is the final of the show due to its cancellations after the allegations towards Max Landis, which I don't know too much about it, but I've heard some damning stuff.
Okay.
So that's all I'm going to say about him. But the show itself is perfectly comedic and adventurous with some excellent costume design.
Okay.
Specifically the people with box castle helmets and sword scissors. Very reminiscent of Kill la Kill in that sense.
Okay. Or the
but
Big Lebowski.
Together. Yeah. Onto the actual top 10.
All right.
Megalobox season 1 at number 10.
Okay.
Well, what a surprise!
I loved this. It had that perfect tone, perfect style, everything from the kind of 90s cyberpunk kind of. It was amazing. I loved it, and even with using a mixture of hip hop into there, which worked perfectly.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Pretty awesome.
You would
great.
really like this
Yes.
one. Oh.
I need to.
Especially as soon as you've watched Samurai Champloo. It's
Yeah.
basically like a weird homage to that.
Okay.
with cyberboxing.
Yeah.
I need to catch up with anime.
It's good. Number 9 is the miniseries Maniac, which was on Netflix, starring Emma Stone and Jonah Hill. Essentially, again, in a kind of dystopic cyberpunk world, where they're part of an experiment to explore their memories and in order to try and understand human psychology.
Okay.
And it is amazing, very sarcastic, and very... I'm trying to think of the right word. Very critical of the possible future.
Right.
And it's got a very nice 80s aesthetic, which
Yes.
one scene is very similar to Alien.
It's mainly a lot of the set design, which is a
Yes.
massive homage to that, and even the poster itself has the very old 60s kind of venturing on 80s screens where it have the certain color clout that you would get with certain broadcast television backgrounds and stuff.
And Emma Stone and Jonah Hill, perfect. But my favourite goes to, I can't remember the actress's name, but the character is called Dr. Fujikawa, and she was amazing, and her aesthetic is perfect.
Okay.
So, yeah, had to give a shout out to that. Number 8 is the Japanese TV show Miss Sherlock. Essentially a cultural adaptation of Sherlock Holmes, where both Watson and Sherlock are women, and they're doing basically simple Sherlock investigations using the same style as the books, which I've been reading recently as well, so it works perfectly. But adapting it to Japanese culture and sensitivities, in which you actually get to learn about a society you don't know too much about necessarily.
Alright.
It's I loved it, and I'm sad that no one's talking about it, but everyone loves Sherlock.
I haven't even heard of this.
It's amazing. It's only 8 episodes long, and it's fantastic. They're each about 40 minutes. Great. Perfect series. Number 7 is the comedy anime Hinamatsuri, or Hina Festival,
Okay.
which essentially about a hitman for the Yakuza kind of adopting this girl that suddenly appears in his house in a weird kind of capsule.
Okay.
And she's like a psychic with
Yes.
telekinesis powers.
Right.
Like at one point, it was one of the funniest bit where she's just kind of spinning around in the air when he comes home. It's got some of the most heart of any anime this year, but also some of the most hilarious comedy.
Oh, yes.
I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait for more.
Some of it was honestly killing me. Some of the scenes.
Especially the girl working at the bar as well. And
that was a great little subplot.
the other one trying to make money.
Oh, yes, yes.
She's my favourite. She's
Yes.
so good. I also like to say it's one of the 2 animes that referenced Castaway, is it?
Yes, yeah, that referenced Castaways, yeah.
Yeah, the Tom Hanks film.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so weird, 2 animes did it this year.
Yeah, 2.
Oh, wow.
Very odd.
Yeah, it is.
Number... Is this 6?
I think so.
Yeah. Is Altered Carbon Season 1, another cyberpunk show.
Okay.
This time about people, essentially... Your whole consciousness now is essentially in a kind of device that gets put in your neck. And you can switch bodies, etc. if you have the money, and it's almost seen as immortality.
Right.
Which the rich can afford and the poor can't. Very interesting look at class and society as technology continues, not necessarily improves. With some fantastic action at points, even flashbacks to his original body. And this next season, he's going to be a different actor, because obviously he's switching different bodies.
That's great.
Which, brilliant, and they'll probably still have flashbacks to his original body.
Yeah.
Which I love, and the character Lieutenant Ortega was perfect.
We're potentially looking at a show that could never end, and a world that could never end.
Kind of like Doctor Who, in a sense.
And kind of like The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Well, its intention. Its intention is to never end. I'm not saying it should never end.
Number 5 is the perfect comedy Derry Girls.
Oh.
The BBC show about 6...
It's a Channel 4 show, isn't it?
Maybe it is Channel 4, yeah.
It's Channel 4.
About 4 Irish girls in, I think, the 70s or 80s, as they go about their normal school lives whilst all this trouble is going on with the IRA. And it is hilarious and probably the closest thing to the In-Betweeners in years.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes.
Okay, that must be good then.
It is amazing. Only 6 episodes, and my whole family watched every episode and loved it. Yeah.
What's this called?
Derry Girls.
Derry Girls.
Being DERRE.
Okay.
RRY, sorry. Not E.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 4 is Glow Season 2. A continuation of the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Yeah.
By the same people behind Orange is the New Black. And it's going even further with the story than I thought, and even better with the characters. I am surprised at some of the really dark and heart stuff in here. It's like a weird mix that contrasts. And the character who plays the, let's say, owner or manager of the whole show, he still resembles Stan Lee so much, so it is sad seeing him now because of Stan Lee.
Yeah.
And if there was ever a documentary or biopic, something with him,
that's the man.
That would be the man. Yeah. Number 3 is BoJack Horseman Season 5, which was amazing, and again another almost kind of Perfect Blue referenced show this season, which went into even more darker and grittier places than previous seasons.
I read about that one episode.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
It is amazing. Me and my brother were just sitting there like jaws open. It was like, damn. But I cannot believe this show seems to be getting better almost every season.
Seems it.
It's crazy, and I even went back to Season 1, and by comparison, it's not good.
Oh.
Which says how good the show's gotten.
Right.
And Season 1 I loved when I first watched it, so yeah. Number 2, which I already said right at the start of the year, and I'm still saying, best anime of the year, came out Jan 6th, being Devilman Crybaby.
Oh, right, okay.
I absolutely loved this, and despite it being almost a compilation of all previous Devilman stuff, there was such a uniqueness to it that I loved, and I think it was some of the style changes and even how some of the characters were modified and adapted into a more narrative, and I loved it. It was amazing, and the ending is still stuck in my head. Number 1, Legion Season 2, the continuation of the X-Men TV show Legion, about the psychic son of Professor X, as he's dealing with his psychological traumas and having had some issues with another powerful psychic called the Shadow Man. Shadow Lord? Shadow King, sorry.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. This place went into even more weirder stuff than the first season, the kind of stuff I actually expected from the first.
Mm-hmm.
So it finally sold to me what I thought it was going to be, and it did it perfectly. Perfect show.
Fair enough. Al, You have anything for television?
No? I feel like all the series I've watched this year, like from last year.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm still catching up from some stuff as well. I only really have stuff regarding anime and general television, so I have 2 general sections. So I'm going to do anime first. I want to breeze through my honorable mentions. I really went in anime hard this year for various. So they say. So I have a ton of things to talk about, and even more that I'm not even going to talk about that I've watched. I think I know, or at least watched and dealt with at least about over 30.
Damn.
Series. So let's do my honorable mentions. First up, I want to give it to Yuri Camp, which is a fun, very silly anime about girls going camping.
Okay.
And all the aesthetics and all the ideas of that, and kind of like that very homely, autumny feel about like the whole camping aspect. Very strange. Jinji Ito or Ito Jinji collection. Fairly decent-ish animations done on one of the more popular horror manga artists of recent times. They did an okay job in some areas, and the series is a bit messy, but I think if you want to get into his series, definitely watch a few episodes of this. Next one I want to go for is Hina Festival, like you already talked about. Really, really funny and strong series that definitely really blew expectations away in terms of like character ideas and where it went, and in general was just like a hilarious series. Hakumi and Mikochi, which is the series about the 9 centimeter tall little people who live in the forest and go about their daily lives. A very sweet and very lovely, relaxing series. Absolutely loved, and it's a shame not a lot of people watched it.
I still need to get around to it.
It's a nice watch. It's the kind of show you watch before you go to bed. It's that kind of show. Next, I want to talk about Uma Museum Pretty Derby, or Derby, however you want to say it. This is the show about horse girls who race.
Okay.
It's
exactly as it sounds.
It's basically like just girls who are horses and they basically race, and it's like the college and all that kind of stuff. It's very funny. It's knowingly very silly. It's partly based on a joke which became a game, which is now an anime series.
Oh, okay.
So, because obviously the idea of girls who don't really look like horses, but they all they have is like ears and tails, but they're horse girls.
Oh, okay.
But there's some really funny stuff, and they really have a lot of fun with it. I mean, the main character is called Special Week, which is a very bizarre name, but you have other really weird names like Gold Ship and Vodka and El Cordo Paso, and very like typical horse names. It was a really fun, very surprisingly animated series, and very fun and very silly. Lupin the Third Part 5. I haven't finished this series, but I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing so far, so I can't talk too much about it. Also really interested because they just revealed what the title of the special is going to be called, and it's going to be called Lupin the Third Goodbye Partner.
Oh.
So I have no idea I have an idea, but I hope it's not what I think it actually is going to be. Next, I want to talk about Rascal Does Not Dream About Bunny Girl Senpai. Really underwhelmed with one of the stories in this, which really knocked it out of the top 10 for me, unfortunately. The third story I did not care for at all.
Okay.
But other than that, everything Ace said, I think, is 100% true. I had issues with the animation being extremely lazy, but I loved a lot of the ideas they tackled, essentially with like I'm trying to remember a lot of the ideas with so many teenagers and so many people's like issues that are affecting them within adulthood, within teenagehood, and some of the very clear influences of the stories are kind of homaging to some extent in a more scientific sci-fi setting, which I absolutely loved. Next, I want to give a shout out to High School Girl, which real sleeper hit of this year. It turned out to really go places. Now, it kind of presents itself as a series about how big gaming became during the 80s in Japan, and kind of progresses into something much more than that in a very interesting and realistic and somewhat depressing way, which is very surprising given a bit of a reveal that happens halfway into the series.
Right, yeah.
So absolutely loved the series. Did not finish it, unfortunately. So given some of the critical praise it's gotten, something might happen with that series in terms of my opinion. The last one I'll give a shout out to is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Win. Absolutely loving this series. David Productions is crushing it.
Yes.
Putting quite a few people to shame. absolutely love this series. I love everything about it, from its animation aesthetics being one of the prettiest animes. They really got that money for this series, and they really took their time to, and as well as combining a lot of other elements with JoJo to make this series as it is. Now, I will say before I move on to my best, High School Girl and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure I have not finished and aren't finished, but if they stay consistent or are good, I'm going to say this. In regards to my top 10, I'm going to replace JoJo with my 4th. Okay. And everyone will move up, and then number 10 will be replaced with High School Girl. Right. Depending on how things go. But as it stands, this is my top 10 list of anime. So number 10, I'm going to go with Cardcaptor Sakura, Clean Card Hen. Yeah. This was a trip down memory lane. For lots of reasons, especially given that this is the sequel to the original series, as well as we are doing time travel. Maybe. We don't know. But this is a very odd series where all the cards are gone, useless. No one really knows what's going on. And all of a sudden, this new girl who looks very similar to Sakura is now new in school. And something kind of odd's going on where a lot of the cards, although the cards are gone, the same kinds of monsters from the original cards are now reappearing in the same locations at the same times in relation to the original series.
All right.
So we don't know what's going on, but it's very interesting how they present things, and I really liked that they stayed very true. They didn't try and change anything apart from like their cell phones a little bit, which is fine, didn't really bother me. Number 9, A Place Further Than the Universe. Yeah. This was a really interesting series about girls who go to the Antarctica.
It's really chill.
It is.
Oh, wow.
It is.
Okay.
It's and what's great about this series is it's not your typical cute girls doing cute things series. It's more or less a very realistic take, because the series, as I've just told you, you're thinking, okay, go to Antarctica. By episode 3, they're in Antarctica. No. By the end of episode 10, they're in Antarctica. And then you have 2 episodes of them in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is a series more about the journey than it is the destination.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like, there's episodes they spend training, planning. There's points where they don't even know it's going to happen. And there's points where they're on the ship. It is an interesting series that kind of tackles a lot of ideas about travel and, doing something with your life in a certain situation. Something that's been tackled many times in other forms, but the way they do it is very interesting. Expectations and the reality definitely get played big time in this series. Number 8, I'm going to go with SSS Gridman.
Which I didn't finish.
Didn't finish, you should have. This is essentially a sequel to the original Gridman television series as an anime done by Trigger Studios, and it was surprisingly enjoyable. The biggest downside is the characters maybe coming off as a bit one-dimensional and a bit flat, a bit forgettable, but everything else, some fantastic CGI animation. Yeah. You can really tell Trigger are really happy with the animation, because they keep posting like the rough makings of like the animation, and I think what they realized, the key to actually making like CGI look good in anime was to make it look more cartoony.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Gridman looks like a cartoon. Really enjoyed this series. Probably one of the best villains of this year, I think, and a lot of really great ideas, like the Neon Genesis high schoolers as well, which are a great addition. Oh, I wonder what that's referencing. Great addition to the characters as well. Number 7, I want to go with Goblin Slayer. I didn't expect to like this anime as much as I did, but I really enjoyed this series as a odd take on fantasy D&D-esque animes where you follow Goblin Slayer, who is this character who only exists and only lives and only kills the goblins. That's his thing, and he is like this badass character, but he's not like your typical badass character where he actually is a very interesting character where that's all he cares about is just killing goblins. He's willing to work with other people, and like I think I've said before, there's literally a line where you hear that the hero has defeated the Demon Lord, because no one really has a real name in this. Everyone's always a typical title in that fantasy.
The noun.
Yeah, the noun basically. And you find out on the high elf archer character basically says, "Oh, did you hear? The hero defeated the Demon Lord," to which Goblin Slayer comes in, sits down and goes, "That's not important. It's time to kill some goblins." Because that's all he cares about. Which I love that aspect of just someone being so passionate about this. Because goblins, although they're a big threat, to most people it's not a big deal. And they do touch upon that idea that despite goblins are doing horrific things to people. A lot of people just like, whatever. I mean, I guess if it doesn't happen to me, I don't really care. You know, and they do touch upon that, and especially an interesting topic they touch towards the end upon is the fact that Goblin Slayer cannot do this forever. One day he will die. One day everyone will die. And who's going to look after everyone else?
The goblins.
I don't know. So it's interesting where it goes. I don't be put off by the first episode. Number 6, Megalobox.
Yes.
I loved this series. It was so 90s.
Oh, it was perfectly 90s.
It was almost painfully 90s.
Exactly.
I
felt like I was in the 90s.
Time traveling and all that. You know, I got my wallet with the chain on it. You know, when I was watching.
Oh my days.
My long, bangs were back.
Yeah. Hair was grown out. Hoodie was on while watching this.
Exactly.
Busting out some tunes. My
Ed
Chemical
Hardy
Romance.
clothes.
You know. And it was a really interesting series about futuristic cyberpunk boxing, and it's really about the underdog story versus, you know, gotta fight the man, you know, the rising up and all those kinds of ideas, which I absolutely loved in this series. And the way they presented it and the way they went about things was just so well done, and I gotta give it a shout out. Number 5 is going to Golden Kamuy, both seasons 1 and 2. This is a really fun series where I love how it's essentially a simple premise of we got to find the map to find the gold, and all the characters can be summed up as man who won't die, girl with a bow,
I'd say girl with weird face.
Girl with weird face to some extent as well, because some of the faces in this series is they're beautiful. There's faces where I'm like, I don't think a child can make that face.
I don't think a human can make that.
Yes, there's just type in Golden Kamuy faces and you'll know what I mean.
Oh, okay.
And then you got strong man, you got old man with gun and sword, crazy general guy.
Is that Mask Man?
Mask Man, yes, crazy general man.
Yeah.
Then you've got military man who's creepy with gun, then military man with gun.
Oh my god.
Some of these characters...
And Wolf.
Yeah. You don't forget Wolf. Wolf is there too. And then you've got so many other characters come in. You got Lady, and you got Fortune Teller Lady.
And CGI Bear.
CGI Bear makes a cameo as well. And then you got a kid who's literally called Boner.
It's perfect. It's honestly great. I just didn't get to watch season 2 this year, which is sad.
It's a really fun watch, and I highly would recommend it if you want something that's very ongoing and very interesting. I absolutely loved it. Number 4, the sleeper hit of the year, in my opinion, Zombieland Saga.
Yeah, again, I didn't get to finish it.
A series basically about a bunch of zombies making an idol group to save Saga. The Saga preference in Japan.
Prefecture.
Prefecture, yes. Weirdly funny and surprisingly dark series at times, where we kind of do delve into how these girls did die, but at the same time their manager is such an asshole to them. He mistreats them, but they're trying to rise up as this idol group despite and hiding the fact that they're zombies. And where the series goes and what it explains is very interesting. Like the last few episodes are almost depressing given what actually happens, because how these girls died is not pleasant, and it's almost not comedic, and they do explain them. Some of them are just like, especially given there's one instance, I won't say who or I won't say how, but there's one instance where it almost seems as if history is repeating itself. And this one character basically stops another character from possibly doing this and basically says, did you know some idiot died trying to do this? Don't be that person.
Wow.
Which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
It went some places big time, and the music is pretty funny as well.
And I always have to note the manager is voiced by the guy who voiced Light in Death Note.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he hams up perfectly.
He is hamming it up so hard. He's basically a cartoon character.
English or English?
Japanese.
Oh.
Yeah.
He is going nuts to something, just screaming in their faces, calling them stupid zombie and all that stuff. It is hilarious. Number 3 is going to Violet Evergarden.
Nice.
Probably the nicest looking anime of this year. Absolutely loved this series. It had such a great movie quality and movie pacing about it. It was a very simple, almost fairy tale like story, and I loved the character herself. This character who kind of needs to learn about emotions, but is kind of doing so via writing letters to capture emotions. And each episode had like a great kind of... Each episode could have been its own film to some extent. Very classic feeling and looking anime, and absolutely loved it. Number 2, this is where things are going to get very interesting. Aggressive Retsuko.
Yeah.
I didn't think this anime was going to be this high.
It was really good. It was.
What this series tackled and what this series came from is amazing. From a silly little show that kind of addresses some of the situations more present in the series to what it ends up going into towards the end. And it's just basically a flash show.
Yeah.
About like a red panda in the workplace dealing with annoying people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. It's only 10 episodes long.
And incredibly relatable. Christmas episode just came out.
I haven't had the time to watch it, unfortunately.
I think it literally came out yesterday. I haven't got to see it either.
But I cannot say enough good things about this. I mean, the main selling point for a lot of people is this Red Panda character who sings heavy metal when she's dealing with the stress of like the workplace and how tough life can be, and that's incredibly relatable and how that's presented, and all other aspects and, you know, relationships with other people within the workplace, and really defining these kinds of people, not just down to like animal counterparts, but in this environment and in this situation, and what the series tries to say. Hopefully it does get through to a lot of people, and I really appreciate what the series did and how well it executed it for the most part. Now, number one is an anime that I think tops all of them, just simply
I know what this is already.
Because of what it is, and that is Pop Team Epic.
Yep, I knew it.
Pop Team Epic is everything and anything. And for a show so fundamentally dumb, it is perfect. In that it parody... This might be the most referential show in history.
Yep.
Okay.
Because there are so many references to things that you don't even know there are references, and this series is about anything and everything, parodying everything. The sketches, it's all over the place. It's such a it's such an artistic and creative mess, where there's segments where they're now in CGI, but then they're back to another different animation. You got a segment where one of the guys, apparently, who works on the show is from France, but the director thought fit to have him animate certain sections about the two main characters being in France, but then interviewed him to describe what they were about to see, but didn't tell him that he was going to be in the series.
Oh, God.
And a brilliant moment of one of the people on the show actually doing a reaction
video
what actually happened on the show.
Because one thing that the series does, which I've never seen, is each episode is technically only 10 minutes, because the next 10 minutes is basically they swap the voice actors out, and it's the same thing with slight variations.
So 10 minutes will be women voice actors, the other 10 minutes it's male voice actors, just on the same exact thing.
But each episode they change the voice actors.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's a different voice actors, and a lot of them, they are intentional pairs for a lot of the case. They have the guy who voices the main character from Attack on Titan, and the other bald-headed guy. They voice the male counterparts. They have the two voice actresses from Crayon-chan. They have two characters from Attack on what's the basketball anime? That basketball anime.
Basket.
Yeah, they have them. They also have they specifically got some like French actors to do the French sections. Like, there's almost 30 voice actors voicing these two characters.
Yeah.
Not including some surprise people who I will not spoil.
Okay.
And Bob Team Epic.
Yes, my favourite section, Bob Team Epic, which is the most dirtiest section.
It is.
It's like a children's drawing and animation.
It's a rip-off of Pop Team Epic itself.
Within the show.
Oh, wow.
It's fantastic.
And it's horrible.
And they released those segments on their own with extra on Blu-ray before the show's even come out on Blu-ray.
As an extra piss take.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And I'm getting that Blu-ray because that's my favourite segment on the show.
It's so bad, and I gotta give it to Pop Team Epic just for being the show, because I remember, just as a quick tangent, I remember when the first episode came out. The first episode is a complete piss take of what people thought the series was.
Yes.
It is basically 10 minutes of dumb references.
Yep.
Constantly just dumb. They're referencing Final Fantasy. They're referencing Your Name. They're referencing Pokemon. They're referencing Ghost in the Shell. They're referencing Skyrim. They're doing all these cliched references. You know, the main villain of the series has a fidget spinner in his hand.
Yeah.
And they really hold on this shot just because they know everyone hates fidget spinners.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a complete piss take. Even the preview of the next episode is a preview of a fake generic anime.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Like a normal like romance anime.
A normal slice of life anime.
Next time on like Love Life or something.
Something like that. And
so
it completely takes the and completely breaks down anime to the fundamentals and then brings it back up as this weird mess. And for that reason, that's why it's my favourite.
I actually forgot to put it on my list because I messed up my lists.
No, it's fine.
So, yeah.
That's fine. I want to go through most disappointing first. which some of these were so upsetting to have to talk about. Number 6 is going to be Dragon Pilots, Hisomi and Masaton.
Yeah.
This is one of the cuter animes of this year because it's basically about girls in the Air Force flying dragons that disguise themselves as Air Force planes.
Yeah.
And it's very cute and it's very silly and it's very funny. Owl is looking at us like, you lying.
Very confused here.
And a few missteps with what it was trying to say and a few pointless characters, and the ending really let the series down, but do not let that deteriorate you from at least giving this show a chance.
It's also got the most bopping ending of all.
Yes, the most bopping ending.
It's amazing. Like, the soundtrack and the animation for it is beautiful.
Yes. Number 5, Sword Art Online. I'm waiting for everyone to get angry. Online alternative Gun Gale Online. Before I'm not gonna. Number 3 is not even on this list.
Yeah, Alakazation or whatever it's called.
Or 3.
Yeah.
The first half of the series is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
The second half is complete shit.
It lets it down.
It's first half original mini story, second half Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
They fall back into the traps of villain who is crazy because they're crazy, weird, creepy, implied sexual underage stuff, dumb battles, consequences that don't make any sense. It falls back into that. It almost feels as if whoever did the first half, he was told, no, you got to make the Sword Art because the fans want to see Sword Art again.
Or he fell asleep halfway through and someone else took over.
Maybe. Which is a massive shame. Really upsetting. But watch the first 5 episodes, and then it ends there. If you want to see a good series, first 5 episodes. Do not bother with the rest of it. No, that ending was fine because it technically ends halfway through the series, and they just go, "We've got to do it again now. We got to stop the main villain because they're crazy." Number 4, Chiro's School Road.
Yes.
Really let me down.
I
this
liked
series.
this show so much. It was so fun.
Really let me down. It's a comedy about a girl who goes on weird misadventures on her way to school.
Yeah.
It was so hit and miss, unfortunately. You'd have a really strong, funny section where she's basically, outsmarting this Yakuza guy to really boring episodes or sections that don't amount to anything or make any sense.
I found it all really fun. I liked it all.
I really didn't like it, and I think it was very telling how poorly executed the series was, given the opening was very lazy.
I didn't like the opening that much, but I actually liked the show.
I'm not, once again, not saying it bad, just very disappointing. Number 3, which was a big disappointment for me, given that this anime or series has a very special place in my heart for a lot of personal reasons, and that's Banana Fish.
Oh, yeah.
The pacing and the way they did the story didn't quite work out, and they really shot themselves in the foot. They tried to structure it too much to be episodic as opposed to just letting the story flow, and they really hurt themselves with that, and it's a massive shame because Banana Fish is a very interesting story, and as you'll see, a lot of people love Banana Fish as of now, and I'm really glad more people like the series, but I think some of the way they did the story did not work for me.
That's why I dropped it. Understandable,
unfortunately. Read the manga, everyone. Number 2, Angels of Death.
Yeah, this dropped off hard.
Yeah, this series had probably the potential to be one of the best. And I know some people might come at us and go, "Oh, you didn't play the game." I don't care. I'm reviewing and talking about the anime.
Exactly.
It has a very creepy, unsettling vibe to the first episode. I guess people who like Danganronpa or Corpse Party might get into this series as well. But once again, the episodes and the ideas just became very hit and miss, especially the third villain they introduced, who was just obnoxious and annoying, and I could not wait for her inevitable death.
Yeah, and she ended up dragging on for like 2 or 3 episodes or something.
2 or 3 episodes, and it was like, there's no threat here.
And the thing is, the show ends at episode 12, but that's not even the ending. There's 4-part special OVA that's the actual end of the show.
Which isn't out yet.
Oh, it is. I've seen it. Okay. It's not worth it.
No.
Shame.
Yeah.
And number 1, which is really going to get everyone upset, Devilman Crybaby.
I knew it was this.
You know it was coming. Devilman Crybaby.
Yeah.
I don't
Should I just say World Star now?
No. There's nothing. I didn't like this reference picture show. I thought the pacing was so messy, and I honestly didn't like.
Ace looks so hurt.
I didn't like the way they paced some things. Like, once again, I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever, because I still have to talk about that. But the way they went about certain things didn't quite make sense in terms of them homaging and structuring their own story. It seems like things kind of got lost in translation. And the main example is one character or villain that gets set up. And this is one of my favorite characters. They set this character up and I'm like, yay, I'm looking forward to that. And then it's literally they just get killed. And I'm just like...
I kind of like that.
But who was that? At the end of the day, I'm like, who the hell was this? Why even... Especially the last episode, where it literally feels like, hey, remember this character from the original series? There she is. Now she's dead. Moving on.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
I was fine
because
with
you
that.
might as well have just called it Crybaby. Because then why put the references there if you're going to be so rush with it? They are desperate to tell their own original story, but at the same time, they feel restraint to go, we got to put that reference in. They should have done their own thing. And it's a shame they didn't, because I think it kind of hurt the pacing of the series.
I feel like we watched two different shows here.
I feel like they were trying to make two different shows.
I feel like you watched two different shows and they formed into Devilman in your head.
I had two screens on.
Yeah, exactly.
I was watching the original Devilman Crybaby series.
Darling and the Franks as well.
Yes, I was watching Darling and the Franks. Yeah. That's the only way I was able to get all these animes done.
Yeah.
Simply put, so they kind of blended together.
I get you.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. But like I said, I'm not saying it's bad.
No, I know.
I'm just saying I honestly didn't like some aspects of it. It just felt weird to me. But at the end of the day, I am looking forward to rewatching this series. I'm looking forward to the Devil art book. I'm looking forward to Devilman Crybaby car, which is coming out soon. Yeah, there is a Devilman Crybaby car for some reason.
Interesting.
Okay.
Don't ask me why. I'm
going to drive that.
There's just a car that's Devilman Crybaby inspired.
It's mine.
And worst anime, in my opinion, big surprise, is Darling in the Franxx.
Okay.
That piece of shit.
This anime was bad. And
I dropped this after like 2 episodes, and I think I only watched one more when I was with you to laugh at it.
And we were killing ourselves laughing. This series gets worse over time. And that's the reason why it's not undisappointing, because there are some interesting things in it, but it just gets progressively worse as things goes on, as it just gets messier and it just doesn't know what it's doing or what it wants to be, and it becomes laughable towards the end. Let me give you a word of advice, guys. If you're watching a series or you want to make a series, if you're introducing your main villain on episode 20 out of 24, you have fucked up.
Oh my god!
Okay, you have fucked up.
This is why I dropped it after 2 episodes. I didn't feel anything.
Nothing happens other than squabbling until that point, and even then that villain's introduction is lackluster at best. It's a very incompetent team doing incompetent things with matters that don't matter and pointless characters. It's really bad, and they had some potential to present something interesting, and I feel so sorry for anyone who actually watched this, because it is honestly... I feel sorry for
the people who enjoyed it.
Well, the series did get a lot of criticism. I will say one thing. I did find it quite funny. Now, I'm not using them as like a Bible or anything, but at one point on myanimelist.com, Darling in the Franxx had like an 8.80 at some point. That has dropped. Yeah. Because the ending was that abysmal. Because, I can basically say the series begins where you think it's a mecha and it ends as a fucking romantic drama.
Yeah. And the place near the ending, if you watch Gurren Lagann, it basically rips that off.
Yeah, it rips it off.
Right.
And does it horribly. Yeah.
It's really bad, and it's kind of telling that I don't think a lot of people connected with this series because, and I can use this as a basis, a lot of the, how should I say it, merchandise released for it, not a lot. Not a lot of it. I can kind of tell Trigger Studios and A1 Pictures aren't really happy with how it performed. I don't know what the actual intent of the series was. I think maybe it was trying to be Neon Genesis Evangelion.
I think it was trying to tell people to have babies. I think that was the point of the show, because that's what Shinzo Abe's been trying to get people to do for the past few years, and he's like, make an anime about baby making.
It's propaganda.
Exactly.
I don't know. You should maybe not worry about having more children and worry why the life expectancy of people in Japan is like 45. But anyway, I'll go through my full-length series that aren't animes real quick. Honorable mentions is going to Peng Life. From the Chicken Connoisseur, his TV series. Very short-lived TV series, unfortunately, because they put it on at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because they're very dumb.
It's ridiculous. They put it on too late.
Although I didn't really like the more teen, younger audience-based content, I thought it was very interesting. He is a very charming and interesting person for the most part, and I really did that. Liam Bakes as well, which is another Channel 4 TV series. Really glad to see Liam himself, who was from the Great British Bake Off, the newer Channel 4 series, actually go somewhere, which is pretty interesting. Liam himself is also someone I've met, someone who's in relation to my family, so
that's pretty cool.
A friend of a friend, basically, I will say. He's someone I've met. He's someone my mum has met and knows, so it's cool. Really awesome to see someone quite close to my family's circle actually get a TV series.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to give him a shout out. Shout out to Liam right there. Best is only going to consist of 3. Number 3 is going to The Crystal Maze. Season 2 specifically, although I'm not 100% sure if it is finished or not.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed this series, staying consistent. Number 2 is going to Channel...
I was just going to say, I really loved the episode that actually had the cast of Dairy Girls on it.
Yes, they had watch Dairy Girls and then watch the Crystal Maze episode with the cast of Dairy Girls. It is hilarious.
Perfect.
It is hilarious. Number 2 is going to Channel 0, The Dream Door, aka Season 4. Probably my favourite Stephen King story, as I said last time. It's basically a Stephen King story, but good.
Yeah.
I still don't want to spoil the plot of this because it is still very new. It came out in the end of October. Basically, a couple moves into a house and a door just appears that they can't open.
In the basement.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And things escalate big time.
There's that specific character. I love. The design is perfect.
That character, one of the most creepily and interestingly designed characters. I guess we could say his name, Pretzel Jack.
Yes.
Pretzel Jack. Yeah. Don't look up Pretzel Jack. Yeah. Just watch The Dream Door, because oh boy.
Yeah, it's part of a series called Channel 0, which each season is a different story.
Okay.
So you don't need to watch previous ones to watch
that. Right. Start at any point. Okay. Particularly my favourite, number 1, which is going to Channel 0, Butcher's Block, Season 3, which I thought was a fantastic dive into some disturbing visuals and ideas regarding mental health and the psyche and all these really messed up ideas, which I absolutely thought was fantastic.
They were both brilliant. I liked them a lot as well.
It is really cool. And I think we're on to our final general section before we kind of do like the last kind of wrap up stuff for the most part ish. And that is going to be web space content. Ace, you're first.
So again, I just put all mine like muddled together. So I've got podcasts and content creators all in one. Mm-hmm. So for my honourable mentions, I want to start with a group that recently, let's say, broke up or ended their channel, being the Super Best Friends Play.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, they are long-time Let's Players who do simple one-video stuff on, or full Let's Plays, or even themed content like the Shitstorm that happens annually.
Okay.
Where they play a horror game each day of October.
Oh, okay.
Ending with a Let's Play of the last video. And they really great, really fun Let's Players, and it's sad to see them go, but I'm happy that they're moving on to other projects.
Oh, okay.
And in a similar vein, another honourable mention being Previously Recorded, which stopped halfway through this year. Mm-hmm. They just ended their show again, talking about video games in more of a analytical review style, and I particularly loved their God of War video. That was specifically, I think it was Jack who I liked. I can't remember if it was Jack or Rich's opinion I liked the most, but if whoever was more critical of God of War, that was me. That's the one I liked.
Okay.
Another honourable mention, this is the Old School Wrestling Podcast, which they also do video with their podcast, so you can watch it if you want to. Okay. And it actually has clips relevant to what they're saying, where they analyse wrestling matches pay-per-view by pay-per-view, and sometimes they do themed content, like a whole section just of Hulk Hogan videos.
Okay.
Or currently what they were doing with Lex Luger, part of the Lex Express, which is hilarious. They're 3 very hilarious Irish guys, and they sometimes cross over with other people, even having featured the Super Best Friends at some points.
Oh, right, okay.
The next honourable mention is Strip Panel Naked, which is one of the only comic book channels on YouTube that actually talks about the nitty-gritty of comic books, from structure to lettering, editing and colouring. And it is incredibly well produced and very well written and voiced by, I believe the channel owner is Hassan. He is perfect. His Twitter is also great.
Okay.
Because he also goes into stuff that he doesn't in the actual show. There's also Neo Scum, which is an actual play podcast where they play Shadowrun, the tabletop RPG.
Okay.
Essentially like Dungeons and Dragons, but modern day cyberpunk with fantasy.
Oh, okay.
And it is hilarious. Their first episode literally has them, instead of doing their mission, just knocking on a motel door and punching this naked guy in the balls. It is hilarious and silly, and all the people in the show are funny. Specifically my favourite being Dak Rambo, who's an extremely stupid truck driver with tattoos all over his body. And a crazy alcoholic drink called Dak Fuel. It's great, heartfelt, and only I think 30 or something episodes so far.
Okay.
So really good to watch. There's also Video Game Donkey, one of the more comedic video game YouTubers, who's started to go even more into an analytical side in some videos, and they've been getting progressively better, and I'm very happy to see this. And I'm really looking forward to if he does an end of the year video.
Yes.
This is still part of the honourable mentions, but it's more of some of his videos because he didn't upload much, being the YouTube channel Folding Ideas, hosted by Dan Olsen, in which he did a 3-part video called A Lukewarm Defense of 50 Shades, but it's more defense of the first film in terms of production and direction, whilst heavily critiquing the books and behind the scenes of the books. Even creating a parody song at one point called Charlie Tango, about some of the stupider moments in the books. It is very fun, very interesting, and very long. They're like roughly 40 to an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Next is Naked Jakey, another video game guy. I watch a lot of video game people, and he does more of an overall stuff around video games, specifically some of the videos this year about mums and dads in video games.
Oh, right, okay.
Clothing, and a recently brilliant video on criticising Rockstar's very outdated game design.
Okay.
Didn't he also do one this year? Will you do the video on Best Dogs?
Yes, he did.
This year, yeah.
Was it this year?
It might have been.
Yeah, it might have been this year or last year, but it's brilliant, and he's got a perfect comedic timing, and he does all his videos sitting on a exercise ball.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
With a keyboard.
Yeah.
Don't forget the keyboard.
Exactly. Then there's Do Not Eat 01, who I only just found this year, and I think he just started this year, who does a series of videos called Power, Politics and Planning, as he's playing the game Cities Skylines, and actually talking about how real cities form and why left socialism is so good and right wingers are horrible, evil bastards.
In American context, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just want to
He is
clarify
American,
that before some people go.
Yeah. But it's fantastic, and his knowledge and wit is immense. I'm so happy I found it this year. Last honourable mention being Super Bunny Hop, probably one of the best video journalists for video games, who's constantly doing reviews almost every week or so on almost everything, even stuff on pachinko machines in Japan.
Give that man a break.
He is amazing.
He is overdue a break.
He is. He needs to rest.
He needs to rest. He needs to just not upload something for 2 months.
Yeah. He recently released a half-hour video on Hitman 2. And he's one of the only people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was great. And he shares the enthusiasm for Hitman like I do. So I'm very happy.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And on to my actual top 10 content creators. First one being Sean, and that's literally just his name. It used to be Sean and Jen, because it was 2 people, but they just stream on a different thing. And he just mostly does videos on politics.
Okay.
Specifically issues with the monarchy, privatization, and European history, problems with the alt-right, which understandably so, and even some on culture, like the Black Panther film and Last Jedi.
Oh, okay.
Which were very good videos. Number 9 is Strucci Movies, who's done, again, analytical views. I love them so much. She did some videos on political correctness and empathy, which was very good at detailing some of the aspects of political correctness and why it's more about just understanding people.
Okay.
And her other, which is a 3-part video called Fake Friends, talking about parasocial relationships between audience and celebrity culture, including YouTubers, etc.
Okay.
You know, the kind of people who are like, you're my best friend, to a YouTuber they watch, which, yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and it goes into a lot of top creators, including people like Jacksepticeye, etc.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Number 8 is Matthew Matosis, one of the best video game reviewers in my opinion. This year he recently did a whole series on the Zachtronics puzzle games, stuff like Infinifactory or Shenzhen.io. He did a fantastic criticism of God of War, which was excellent. It's 40 minutes long though.
Oh.
So, yeah. A great video on Sonic Dreams Collection,
Oh, God.
which is amazing. I was surprised at how in-depth he went in this, and it's very smartly written, and he's got a continuous dry sarcastic wit. His last video, which came out recently, being Mega Micro videos, which he did, it's almost like 15 reviews in one video, but it's only 30 minutes long.
Oh, right, okay.
And it tackles stuff like Demon Souls and Bloodborne, WarioWare, it's all kinds of games.
Okay, yeah.
Number 7 is Malmrose Projects. She does videos again on problems with, let's say, the alt-right and the red pill community, as they call themselves.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. She also did a fantastic 5-part analysis of the film Freddy Got Fingered, which I'm so happy she liked it as much as I do. And 2 videos on transphobia in film, being trans herself, and discussing problems with, for example, Ace Ventura, and 1 episode of Arrested Development. But not necessarily just it's bad because it's this, but understanding the issues, which was very in-depth and very interesting to look at. Number 6 being Innuendo Studios.
Okay.
Again, a very cultural and media person. They did a series called Bringing Back What's Stolen, essentially on women in film, specifically looking at how Mad Max Fury Road did something so amazing, and a type of cliche or stereotypes women are in films.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
With each video being a specific type, like the femme fatale.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And the alt-right playbook, essentially how the alt-right operate and stuff. A lot of people are very analytical of them, which I'm fascinated by. Joseph Anderson, which is one of my favourite video game reviewers, probably the top. A 2-part on subjectivity and reviewing, which everyone should watch if they ever get pissed off by someone's opinion. Because it's really good. It's mostly a primer on them. It doesn't go super in depth, but it is really good, and I think more people need to understand people's opinions.
Yeah.
He also did a really long, I think, 2-hour video on God of War.
Okay.
And he does like it more than I do, but he's very good at his analysis.
Okay.
And Super Mario Odyssey, of course, which is equally long.
Yeah, can imagine.
Number 4 is Eric Taxon, another very leftist YouTuber. He did a video on the video game Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, why he likes it so much. A video on my favourite film of all time, Funny Games, and again, why he loves it so much. And a second part of his video called The Golden Calf about copyright law.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 3 being The Good Boy, H-Bomber Guy, with his 2-part video on soy and why people are calling people soy boys and why it's stupid.
Okay.
That was a weird moment in 2018.
Yeah, and why they don't understand science, because these people are stupid as fuck. Also his excellent videos on Lovecraft and speedrunning, and my favourite video, Control-Alt-Delete's Loss video.
Oh boy.
It's amazing and art. It's pure art. He also did a better Sonic than the Sonic Hedgehog film, but that's an old video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you that one.
Alright.
Number 2 being Lindsay Ellis, the former Nostalgia chick, years back. And she's been one of the best analytical YouTubers for ages. She did a 3-part series on The Hobbit and the issues with them. Because she loves the Lord of the Rings a lot. she continued her series called The Whole Plate, which is an analysis of Michael Bay's Transformers.
Oh, right.
Using every sort of critical theory, from feminist theory to queer theory to Marxist theory. And it is astonishing and amazing.
That's one you need to send it out, definitely.
It's perfect. I think it's like 9 videos and they're each 10 minutes long.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Very comical as well. And her other video, which is more recent, on YouTube Authenticity, and how people fake in order to get people to stay subscribed and to continue watching, spreading. My last and my favourite YouTuber, and she's one of the best, being ContraPoints, or Natalie Wynn, who does philosophical videos, almost on a Socratic method, debating points with herself, as she dresses up as different characters. And it is amazing, and one of the best produced and cinematography of anything on YouTube. I love them, yeah. That's my content creators. I had way too many because I like a lot of analysis.
No, that's fine. Al, do you have any you want to chat about?
No.
That's fine. I only have 10. Everything kind of mushes into 10, just like you. Like I said, I was on that anime hard, so I didn't watch too much. I want to give a shout out to some people, and some of these people might come as a bit surprising, especially number 10 being PewDiePie.
Oh, okay.
I was actually pretty surprised with how he's transformed his content to, although he is kind of going down more the form of reaction and kind of talking about certain situations within the world and, you know, very silly stuff. I do like how he's been able to really transform his personality, really kind of tackle some issues, especially some of the criticism that has come towards him, where he's been called this like Nazi, like alt-right like person by like so many articles, and the whole massive issue with him versus T-Series, where it was basically fireworks are going off. I don't know if you can hear that, guys, but
what weird timing.
Yeah, what great timing. That should have been at the very end.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would have been so fitting. Hopefully they'll do it again. And giving his whole almost fight to some extent, or this whole massive situation where T-Series, which is a Indian film / television production company, was on the rise to become the most subscribed YouTuber versus PewDiePie, and everyone just backing in all the support for PewDiePie to become the #1 subscribed person, even with him releasing a diss song towards T-Series named Bitch Lasagna.
What?
Yeah, a song called Bitch Lasagna. It's a nonsensical parody of diss tracks, more specifically coming from YouTube diss tracks from some more notable or not as notable characters. But I really liked his content. He's very silly, and pretty good stuff. Number 2, I'm giving to 2 Snacks, who is probably, in my opinion, one of the better animators on YouTube right now. No one knows who this guy looks like. He's more known for doing the Two Best Sisters Play series, which is a parody animated version of the Super Best Friends play certain games, but reversing the characters to be My Little Pony characters.
Oh, right, okay.
But don't let that put you off, because this guy goes in hard with the amount of animation or differences. His Fallout 4 video is Two Best Sisters Play Fallout 4 is amazing, when he's basically taking aspects or situations from the actual game of Fallout 4 and models and mixing it in with these very colourful, feminine-looking pony characters that sound like guys and all these other elements that don't make sense, and it's fantastic. So, got to give him a shout-out to that. Number 8, I'm going to give to Cadicarus. Continuing those strong videos and really kind of excelling himself as one of the better, more comedic game reviewers. Definitely a PS1 fanboy, but he knows that definitely. But he's been doing a lot of stranger videos, like reviewing children's magazines. And reviewing, although he may have reviewed it last year, reviewing Peppa Pig to some extent. That's become a bit of a recurring theme on his channel. But some of the more outside stuff, which has been pretty funny. And as of right now, or this year, he did his Bad Vent calendar, which is him counting down 25 of his worst games of all time,
Oh.
as opposed to last year when he did his 25 best games of last year. New video every day.
I need to watch that.
Really good stuff, and I'm really liking where he's going with his stuff. Number 7, Video Game Donkey. Solid comedic content. Absolutely love, like you said, some of his analytical reviews. I do love how he got so much flack for having an opinion after so long.
I know.
Which I thought was just crazy that people were like, his opinion is wrong. He doesn't understand this. It's almost as if he reviewed the Death Note film the way people were coming at him. So really good stuff, especially his video on game difficulty part 2.
Yes.
Which I thought was very strong.
Both, like his previous one as well.
Yes,
excellent.
definitely videos to watch. Number 6 is going to the Nido Drop / Anthony Fantano. Just consistently bringing in reviews and music-based content, even kind of somewhat bringing back the whole meme aspect of his content, because he used to have another series which unfortunately got taken down because he was called an alt-right Nazi, so he understandably took it down. He is not, by the way. And
he's very centrist. He's kind of in the middle.
He is. He will basically talk about the situation, and he's not going to bring in too many issues too much. I mean, he's a punk fan, so of course he would. Really liked his stuff. I really liked the fact that he kind of brought back the alter ego character, the best teeth in the game, which is another character he kind of plays, which is the guy who usually reviews the memes, as well as his other alter ego character, Carl Chichester, who is his roommate, who's been appearing a few times, and even Snakey Jakey appeared in one of his videos as well, with Carl Chichester, which I have to send you that just so you can see their reaction with that. So really loved his stuff. Turned me on to some good music, which is what is good, because we weirdly enough have very similar music tastes. Other than he's a little bit more sludge metal trap as opposed to I'm not.
Okay.
But number 5 I want to give to Ralph the Movie Maker, who might technically be ending his reviews. Debatable, who knows, given his last review, which was on Justice League.
Oh yeah.
But Ralph the Movie Maker, he is a filmmaker, so it makes kind of sense why he'd want to end this main series. But his content and what he's been reviewing and getting much better at reviewing films has really been fantastic to watch. Number 4, I'm going to go with Abroad in Japan, who's a YouTube series who has received so much success over the last few years, even getting a shout out from Bryan Cranston on I forget what podcast or radio show it was, but it's because they now do another podcast with why am I forgetting the guy's name? But he basically does the Football Ramble podcast, and he's on Absolute Radio. I'm forgetting his name. Pete Donaldson.
Oh, okay.
And as of right now, he is currently uploading and doing a cycle across Japan, having certain guests come on and do it. He had Pete Donaldson, of all people, join him. He had Joey, aka the anime guy. He had a few other friends kind of come on, and he's going to continue to have guests as he basically cycles across Japan as a massive, almost end of year project.
That's pretty awesome.
So massive props to him. Number 3 is going to Red Leather Media for keeping it consistent with some of the best produced video discussion based videos of all time. They already dropped 3 half in the bag videos this month.
I know, and like a best of the worst, the Christmas one.
Yeah, the best. Oh my gosh, which I watched, which was hilarious.
I know.
Get on Red Letter Media, big time. Number 2 is going to my favorite YouTuber of all time, which is Vash12349. Simply, he is a Let's Player, and I've been watching him for many years, and his content has evolved, and he's been fantastic. He's one of the only people playing Hitman, and he is putting in a lot of work to show his fans a lot of the Easter eggs, a lot of the alternate ways you can take out these guys, and I really appreciate that he's getting a lot more into the technicals and really spending a little bit more time on stuff, and definitely 100% loved him. And number 1 is going to go to the Super Best Friends Play. It is so upsetting that they have ended things, because now what's so sad about this is I'm going to bed early now.
Exactly.
because their video that usually gets up around about the time I go to bed isn't there anymore. And it's a really saddening thing that they had this 9 years of some of the strongest and best content, collaborating with so many people that I know, that maybe you guys listening know, and it's a shame, but they all have their own respected things, and I'm not really going to go into the politics and the issues of with who did what and all this, which people are trying to go into, but I'm just going to respect what they are and what they've done for the most part. And we're on the last few sections. I know it's been 3 hours.
Oh God.
We've had a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about, and we're on the final stretch, and I think we're going to breeze through these because I don't think everyone has that much to say about these last few things. Just a little bit longer now, guys, and I guess we are going to speed it up. So we're going to do, as we kind of end 2018, we're going to do the highlights and lows of 2018. And I guess, regarding everyone, we're just going to go highs, lows each time. So, so just your highs and lows, Ace, and then...
Yeah, all right.
So we'll do it that way so that we can get to the end of the podcast.
Okay, so my... let's say highs for the list. One
a bit closer to the mic, sorry.
One of the first ones being actually getting my PC built, finally, and actually getting to start work on trying to develop games, which has been really
good.
It's really fun, but complex and hilarious, and sometimes I'm sitting there laughing to myself, because it's like, what did I get wrong? Because I ended up making the character walk over a door instead of through it, and that's my favourite one to tell. But yeah, that's really great, and I'm just so happy that, again, let me experience so many old games as well as ones that are PC exclusive.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy I finally got around to that.
Good.
I think the other high basically being part of this podcast.
Oh, that's nice.
It's always fun, it's really nice, and we always get to chat about stuff, and even if we don't agree on stuff, it's hilarious.
It is, yeah.
I think my low is just like how quick this year went.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, it felt like it blazed by, and I still feel like it's the middle of the year. I don't get how. And apart from that, just society. The world is fucked up, and it's getting worse, it seems, at points, and it's like, it'd be so easy to just be apathetic and not care about anything.
Yeah.
But that's my highs and lows.
Al, do you have any highs and lows of this crazy year?
So my highs of 2018 is graduating in July.
Nice.
So I'm really happy about that. Thanks. And then getting a PSP for my birthday. I'm pretty happy about that. I can play Monster Hunter again. So I'll probably be hibernating. And could I include media content actually? Or should I just go straight to the lows?
Yeah, just general. So if you want to do that, yeah.
Okay, cool. Media content, I'm quite happy that the Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel trailer came out. I'm really excited for that game to come out next year. Can't wait. I need to get a PS4. Spyro Trilogy, like I said, I need to get a PS4 so I can actually play the game. Mortal Kombat 11 I'm hyped for as well. I can't wait to see what characters are going to be released in it, and DLC as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and now the lows. Okay, so being stressed about my thesis getting done in third year of university. I'm glad I got that done and eventually graduated.
Good.
Losing a copy of my Tekken Tag Tournament 2.
Oh, you told me about this.
I was upset.
No.
I was playing it all through summer, and then all of a sudden, it's like, I think when it got to September, I was like, I want to play some Tekken, and then I couldn't find it. I was like, oh my god, where's my game gone? Where is it gone?
Wow.
I was really upset, but I had to order another copy of it.
Yeah.
So I'm playing the game again.
So at least that's that.
And this is kind of like media content as well. Stan Lee unfortunately passing away.
Yeah.
You know, I was saddened by this. I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but I'm, you know, still saddening, and his legacy will still live on at the end of the day. So yeah. And lows again. Not being too sure what to do once I graduated. I kind of went into a kind of phase. I was just like, what am I going to do now? Like, I've graduated, yay! And it's like, so what do I do now? Yeah, okay. And then also another, this one's more of like an angry rant, should I say.
Okay.
Basically, just before I graduated, I got disrespected by a random guy on the bus. I'm not gonna go too fully into this.
Don't say this.
Because I actually can't. I have to tell you guys off there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it at the moment.
Fair enough. I'll do my highs. Quite a few things. I did have kind of an eventful year, which I'm actually pleased about for the most part. The main thing was my holiday to Japan.
Yes.
Which was 1 week from the 11th to the 17th of February, which was a fantastic trip, which you can obviously see the video that I did on it if you want to get somewhat of an experience. The whole situation of my 24th birthday, which caused some issues big time. There was debates, there was doubts given certain things that happened that day, but you know, everything got resolved. I went to go see Aladdin on in London, the West End play, which I think was really cool. I really liked that. I went to see it with my mum, which is fantastic. My last day of work and the after party, which was a crazy situation because I guess I can say this now since I've passed. I was working most of this year and last year in a school. And obviously leaving a school and it being the last day was like, very an emotional kind of situation. And the after party, which was crazy because like, I don't know what was going on to some extent. Teachers party hard. That's what I'm going to say. And a few other things I want to mention is going to the Mamoru Hoshida exhibition, which all the anime put on, which I thought was a pretty cool example. And a few other things I want to mention. I want to mention all the anime themselves for just continuingly to be a pretty awesome company in terms of like Japanese and anime culture for the most part. A few quick notes I'll have with media content in terms of like popular things, and it's mainly just kind of like memes for the most part, which I guess kind of put a smile on my face sometimes. I really liked Voiceover Pete. Voiceover Pete, who essentially is also known as the Attention All Gamers man.
Okay.
And he's got a weird series of videos where it's just him behind a green screen in a suit, and he basically goes, "Attention all gamers, Steve from Minecraft needs your help. He needs to beat the blah 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 whatever. All he needs is your credit card information and the numbers on the back to help Steve beat the creepers in Minecraft."
That's amazing.
And he's done it for so many others, just basically making fun of the whole reference. He got into a bit of big trouble because he did one on Fortnite and it proved to be too real.
Oh, wow.
So they kind of took the video down because unfortunately some children thought that was a real thing.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh dear.
I also kind of want to give a shout out to Infinity War being the most ambitious crossover event in history. I loved all the memes, along with the "I don't feel so good" meme.
Yes, that's my favourite.
Seeing a lot of the compilations, which were great. One of my favourites simply being Scoob, "I don't feel so good." Which I thought was great. And one thing which I just found out about was this fantastic this fantastic photo of rapper Young Thug and Little Durk. And there's this great photo of Young Thug basically looking at something on the screen in the studio with this serious kind of like intrigue and intent. Like you got Little Durk who's looking at him like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And the amount of images that people have put together where people have said they're like Batman and Robin, or they're trying to save the world, or it's been great because there's a very interesting and iconic image. I gotta show it to you guys after, but absolutely loved it. Lows, real quick. The start of this year was pretty rough for me because my grandfather unfortunately went in hospital on New Year's Day for reasons I'm not going to mention, and it was kind of pretty sad and distressing to have one of my family members being in the hospital during that time, especially around my birthday, especially during the January time. He's much better. He's kicking it pretty hard for the most part. And once again, my grandma wants to interrupt me during my podcast, and it was great to see him actually make that full recovery, and it's pretty good. Also kind of realised that I really didn't do too much this year, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself for that, for the most part. And the other negatives I'll talk about would be like Kanye West being being a complete mess throughout, consistently being a mess throughout the whole year. I also want to mention Tekashi 69. I say it like that because there's a great video of this guy seeing a woman with orange hair from behind and he's going, Tekashi 69. She turns around and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were Tekashi." It's a really dumb video, but that's how I like to say his name. This guy was a massive dick, and I really do hope he gets sent to prison for what he did. Sony for continuing to be one of the worst film studios of all time. They messed up big time. YouTube consistently just not giving a damn about anything, and just I've never seen someone just watch their own death. Because that's essentially what they're doing. YouTube will not be around in the next 5 years. I'm going to say this right now. Netflix, I'm going to say, because I don't know what they were doing. Netflix is following Hollywood in some weird way, and honestly, it feels like it's Netflix is just a front for market research now. It honestly feels like, hey, people like this, let's make this again. That's what it honestly feels like, and I'm really disappointed in Netflix for really not sticking with the whole mantra of Netflix original. It's very disheartening. It's very disappointing to see the good guys turn bad, in some sense. Facebook as well, given the whole situation that altered the whole course of the internet.
Yeah.
I don't really need to mention that because it is a bigger story, but my goodness. And two last things I want to talk about is the app TikTok, essentially being this good. It's basically Vine, but more in favor of bullying.
Oh.
Vine has gotten pretty bad. And they're going to need to do something about this because it is exposing just how evil and how cynical and just how messed up society is regarding teenagers right now. I would urge anyone, if you don't know about TikTok, please do not download the app. Just watch compilations on YouTube. Do not subject yourself to uploading videos or watching other videos on there. There's questionable things on there and questionable people, and there is a serious issue with bullying regarding certain people. I don't know what's going on there. It is an absolute mess, and it highlights just how bad things are in this world. And the other thing I want to quickly mention, which I don't need to go into many thoughts, is the constant and consistent coverage of Breadix.
Oh, God,
it has been a pain in the ass, and it has been an absolute nightmare to constantly have it get shoved in my face. Final section, guys. Most anticipated of 2019. Ace, do you want to kick it off with your list for the most part?
Yes, so I'm going to start with films because there's very little to look forward to next year.
Fair enough, just give me the general rundown.
So besides like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and some other superhero stuff like Joker, which I am still interested in because Joaquin Phoenix is amazing, I'm looking forward to Glass, Detective Pikachu, and Star Wars Episode 9, which I hope is good because I loved Last Jedi so much. Onto video games. Very much, I've got quite a few here. The Untitled Pokemon RPG, I'm very excited to see what that's going to be like. Neo is getting its sequel with Neo 2. There's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which the new From Software Dark Souls-ish game. I'm so hyped for it because the gameplay looks amazing. There's Phoenix Point, which is an XCOM-like by the original developers of XCOM, and it looks amazing, and I can't wait. And they weren't sure. I think they weren't sure if it was coming out this year or next year, but it's definitely next year now. So excited. Left Alive, which is basically very Metal Gear-like. Even the concept and cover art looks like Metal Gear's art style, and it's essentially like kind of third-person shooter with mechs. So Sinking City, very Lovecraftian, which I like Lovecraft stuff. It's fascinating.
Hopefully, I think it will be better than Call of Cthulhu, which we got, because
I didn't get around to that.
Big disappointment for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, Wasteland 3 finally. Wasteland 2 was really good, and I'm very excited for the third one because it's been set in a winter environment, and I love winter games. Biomutant.
Oh yeah.
The action platformer kind of ish game where you mutate your character over the course of it.
Okay.
Looks great, and I'm very excited. The Surge is getting its sequel. We're in Surge 2, again, another Dark Souls-ish, like, I really love those games and I can't get enough. And the most weirdest one, I had to save it for last, being Digimon Survive, which is a Digimon strategy survival game where your characters can die.
The human characters?
I think Digimon and humans.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's fascinating, and I'm very excited for it. And the trailer, it sets off all nice, and then it just goes into, no, they're going to die. And I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. I'm very excited for this.
I need an adult.
Exactly.
And that's roughly your
That's
anticipation?
what I'm looking forward to, yeah.
Okay, so my anticipations for 2019 films, I'll start off with first. So, I know you guys might disagree, but Dark Phoenix, I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Superhero, I'm checking out every superhero. I like them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Lion King, I'm looking forward to as well. Avengers Endgame, because I want to see what the hell happens next. And finally, Dragon Ball Super Broly.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see that January actually.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
late January.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that. Personal goals. Well.
We're not doing Pokemon goals just. Yeah,
alright.
We're doing that just like right after.
Alright, cool. No, that's fine. Yeah, that's it for me then.
Okay. There's most anticipated. I have in a top 10 of just general stuff. I'll just quickly run down. Number 10 is going to Indivisible, which is an RPG Kickstarter game which is still coming out. They unfortunately did push it back this year, but they seem to say that this is the final release date for it, so I cannot wait to finally get it, hopefully. Number 9, Under the Silver Lake, which is a film done by the director of It Follows. This is his next film, which has been getting a lot of good praise since it's been going around film festivals. Hopefully it does turn out to be as good as people say it is. Number 8 is going to Devil May Cry 5.
Oh yeah.
I'm really looking forward to how this game turns out. It looks like it's definitely going to be hopefully it brings back action, like hack and slashes, back into the mainstream, even if it means Capcom does another game after this or some sense. So
it's a true sequel to DMC Devil May Cry.
No, it's not.
It is to me.
It's not. DMC doesn't count apparently because now we have Devil May Cry 5.
Still works for me, damn it.
DMC Devil May Cry 5 did so well they had to do Devil May Cry 5.
Good, I'm glad.
You know, things maybe didn't turn out so well when even when they cancelled the reboot.
They all know it was so good it didn't need sequels.
Yeah, says the sequel setup.
Not
episode. Number 7, One Punch Man season 2.
Yeah,
really looking forward to. Huh?
Oh no! I was just saying.
Okay. Really looking forward to season 2, given the stakes might be rising, and One Punch Man, the original series, was so good. One Punch Man is a series that does get overblown a bit too much, especially when the Dragon Ball Z fans get involved. And I can't wait for that to start again. Goku can beat One Punch Man. No, One Punch Man can beat Goku because but what about Superman? Superman will beat all of them. But you anime's gay, and that's what it always ends up being at the end of the day. Number 6 is going to the Konosuba movie.
Yes,
I don't know what's going to happen with this film, but I am very interested to see what they might do with it. It looks like it's an original film. Yeah. And I cannot wait. Number 5 is going to Promare, which is Trigger's next film, which looks very Gurren Lagann-esque. Kill la Kill is very Trigger-esque, over-the-top, bright, colourful, crazy film, maybe about Gundam-esque firefighters saving the world.
Interesting.
So I cannot wait. Number 4 is going to Boogie Pop Never Laughs, Boogie Pop Doesn't Laugh, which is the remake, sequel... Reboot. We don't know what it is yet.
Boogie Pop Phantom.
Yes, of the original Boogie Pop Phantom anime series. Given how dark and how twisted it looks, I'm very anticipated to see what they actually do with it. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's just a complete retelling of the whole story. I don't want it to be a remake or a sequel. So we shall see. Number 3 is going to Missing Link, which is Luckia's next film. They're the people who did Coraline and Paranorman, and 2 years ago, Kubo and the Two Strings. So really looking forward to that. Although it looks a little bit more comedy themed, we'll see how it goes. Number 2 going to Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh yeah.
This, I think, given everything I've seen, I think this is honestly going to be possibly Game of the Year, because there is too much attention to detail and too much craft, and they are really just going at it. Like, they're on a mission to be, this is the best game of the year. And I think they might take it.
I'm getting this on PC because then I can get a first person mod.
You just being a hater.
No, I hate that camera. It's so close. It's almost like Umbrella. What was that? Umbrella Core.
No, don't compare it.
I'm not saying it is.
Please don't.
But the camera's so close, it's annoying.
Don't even speak that.
Because I'm hyped for
speak that.
I'm hyped for 2.
But I mean, I'm surprised you haven't even heard about the fact that what they are going to be doing it. They are going to be doing first person, yeah.
They are?
Yeah, it's called Resident Evil 7. No, I had to say it.
Alright, cut, I'm gone. Goodbye.
No, Ace, please.
No, wait, come back.
Yeah. And number 1, obviously, is going to be Mob Psycho 100 Season 2.
So high.
Although it's only like 2 weeks away, maybe even closer, it's Mob Psycho.
Yeah.
It's all about
Mob Psycho. Simply put, it's all about Mob Psycho.
And Best Boy Reagan, not Ronald Reagan.
Yes, to clarify. And I guess we're pretty much at the end of the podcast. If there's any goals anyone wants to shout out or anything they want to say before we end this podcast, now is the time to do so.
So I've got... Oh, did you want to go first?
Yeah, I can if you want.
You can go first, sorry.
Hopefully this year, coming, I'll actually have some sort of build for one of my first games.
Oh, good.
Which would be really cool. That's what I'm striving for, whether it actually works or not.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good to hear.
That's my only ambition. Next year can just die for the rest of it for me.
Okay, I've got a few things. So, I want to kind of get people better presents next year.
Alright.
Yeah, I've always been budgeting with people's presents, especially Christmas time.
It's understandable.
So I just want to try and see if I can get people better presents. Next, I get a PS4 because I really need to get one to experience newer games. Start watching anime again. I need to really get my laptop sorted out. And baking more recipes.
Ooh.
And finally, hopefully go on a holiday. I really need to go on holiday.
Yeah, I think you do.
I understand.
Because last holiday I went on was, I think, 2 years ago.
Damn.
And that was the first and only holiday I've ever been on throughout my whole life. So I need to go on more holidays and experience.
Big
time.
Yeah.
See, I was going to say, it's that's the last time I've been on holiday too, but it's that's your only?
Yeah, it's the only time I've ever been on holiday, so it's I need to experience.
You need a break.
Yeah, I need a break.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Yeah, I just got a few things that I want to basically say. So some of my main aims are a little bit more mysterious and a little bit more personal.
Okay.
They mainly revolve around organization. It's going to be a big time for organization for the most part, as I've got really bigger plans that kind of lead into those things that will hopefully maybe put myself and maybe how we do the podcast in a better position.
Okay.
I'm also going to take this opportunity to announce that I am currently working on a bigger editing project, which is going to be Project Briefcase, which is going to be hopefully coming out some point this year. And I won't say what exactly it's going to be, but there's going to be 10 new original videos, hopefully, at least. And they're all planned. Some of them are written. So expect to see those on a brand new channel. At some point. I will let you guys know via this channel when that happens and what it is and if it does happen. But I am kind of keeping my eggs in one basket given some things that might happen come January. And the last thing I will mention or tease is that I might be out of this country a few times next year. But I'm going to stay very hush-hush about that.
Okay.
Because those might be bigger plans which hopefully expand into other things. But yeah, that's basically it. And it's been 3 hours and about 40 minutes or so.
Jesus.
We had a lot.
Yeah.
We had a lot to talk about, and hopefully you guys have watched it. We really appreciate if you have watched and listened to this podcast as well as any other podcast that may have happened this year or previously. Massive thank you to everyone who had listened to anything or left a comment or anything like that. Although Christmas has passed, don't want to wish everyone a good new year, hopefully coming in. And we should see you next year, maybe round about either the 13th or the 14th of January, because we're going to take an extra long break to be away from it, just so we can have that time, because obviously first week back, everyone kind of goes back anyway. So we will see you then, the first podcast of 2019. Video of the episode, we're going to be a bit cheeky and we're actually going to make the video of the episode the Ferret and Raccoon podcast episode 78, the best and the worst of 2017. So if you are new to this podcast, listen to that podcast and maybe you can hit us back come 2019, or maybe listen to these two back to back and compare the differences in certain things. But not unless there's anything else anyone wants to add.
No,
can't think of anything.
I would like to thank Owl, I'd like to thank Ace, I'd like to thank Ferret, I'd like to thank Recess and everyone else who has contributed to this podcast over this year. It's been fantastic. It's been an honour to do this podcast with you throughout the years. It's made 2018 a lot more pleasurable. Big time.
Agree.
That's good.
And on that note, I'll end this podcast for 2018 like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon.
I'm the Indigenous Owl.
I'm Ace.
And we will see you in 2019. Alright, laters guys.